This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?
What up? What up? What up, fam? Hey, listen, I feel like we was just in here. That's what I feel like. I feel like I just talked to y'all. Hey, man, listen, we back in for another dope installation over here with your boy M.O.I, man. We're going to tap in for about an hour. Nothing more, nothing less. And I was really inspired to do this live due to the fact that I got so much information over on my TikTok page. And if you haven't seen my TikTok page, it's okay. I know I talk about it a lot, but it's something I'm proud of it because I'm growing it organically. I'm growing it organically. So as a part of my effort and my promise to the good brother Crumb, I said I will do more lives. I will come here more often. So you guys will be seeing me more often than usual. I can't stress it enough. So go ahead and share, like the page. And in case y'all didn't know, I am for the Pan-Indigenous, Pan-Indian movement. What the hell is the Pan-Indigenous, Pan-Indian movement? Well, in case you guys been under a rock for the past, I don't know, several years, there is a huge movement, or I shouldn't say a movement, I should say a reawakening or realignment of the descendants of those who were classified as Negro colored folks. But they're really the indigenous people of the planet, the indigenous people of America. And I feel like my TikTok, I'm dropping a lot of heat over there, y'all. Like, the shit is bananas. I'm not monkeying around. It's bananas over there. And it's in lieu of the indigenous movement. And there's a lot of brothers and sisters that's dropping heat about this. And I feel like it's not getting this justice it needs. It's not getting the airplay it needs. So I was fortunate enough to link up with some cool brothers. Shouts out to Chief Cali. And Chief Cali been linking me up with some other cool brothers as well that I'm going to have join me here in a minute. And I'm gonna let the brothers introduce themselves, but you know, protocol, house rules. Let's go ahead and jump in these comments and see who was over here in class first. Definitely go ahead and share this, man. Please. It don't cost you nothing to share it. It costs nothing to share it. But I guarantee you, after today's show, I'm setting the tone for the Pan-Indigenous, Pan-Indian movement of the Americas. And it won't just be my voice. It'll be several other brothers who got documentaries. Y'all tap into to YouTube and to these other social media platforms just to be entertained for an hour or two. But there's brothers who putting in hours of work putting together documentaries, man. We haven't seen a good documentary since what? I forgot what it was called. Taniq Rashid, since his shit Hidden Colors. Well, this is a situation, a documentary is coming out, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to be meeting so many of these cool brothers, man, articulate brothers, man, smart brothers. And anytime I come on live, just be prepared to hear me in them. Okay. I'm just going to, stand on business with that. But protocol says we have to shout people out in the comments. And of course, D Nice. Hey, D Nice, you can shoot me an email, bro. I don't think I got your email, Nice. I want to give you one of those hoodies, my guy. definitely shoot me a email. The email is MOI podcast at gmail.com. I'm scrambling, trying to find the shit right now. And we got one of those brothers who just showed up. He's in the green room right now. I'm gonna bring him on live here in a second. That's the email address, man. The MOI podcast at gmail.com. Shoot me an email, D Nice, so I can get your size, brother. Get you one of these dope ass hoodies. And for those who've been communicating with me on the YouTube communication page, appreciate you. I had a typo or a misspell on one of the designs, and that's why I put it out there first for you guys to see. I mean, ain't no shame in my game. Shit, I put it out there. Hey, this is incorrect. Whatever the case. Thank you. That's love because somebody saw it and didn't say shit. You know what I'm saying? So, D Nice, definitely hit me up, bro. Hit me up and let's get your size, get you that sweater. I mean that hoodie. And in case you're wondering why I picked D Nice is a big supporter, and he's the epitome of support. Supporting is just a share. It's just a like. So get those likes up right now. Like we don't even have enough people in here to be watching at this point. It was just 200 of y'all on here 20 minutes ago. So retap those people. Let's tap in. Shout out to all the members too. All the members on the platform, paying members over on YouTube. Appreciate y'all. I haven't got my paying subscription part up yet. I'm working on it. It's getting there. But definitely support Crumb TV in the platform. King Davis, we see you. Peace and light, peace and love. Tapped in from the SIP. Presumably that's Mississippi. M.I. cricket letter I. A lot of history in Mississippi. A lot of Native American history in Mississippi. A lot of history down there. The Southeast region, period. Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Carolinas, Virginia. It's steeped in history, man. So shouts Mississippi. Rising Phoenix, we see you. Nick, what's going on? Peace to the guy. We're saying peace back to you. And of course, my guy, Solo 5K is in the building. Appreciate you, homie. Hey, thanks, man. Thanks. Appreciate you, bro. For sure, for sure. Karate chopping with my boy, Bruce Lee. Gullah Goddess in the building. Upliftment, Boston certified. All right, Boston. Gullah, I'm almost compelled to ask you, you're referring to like the goal, the Geechee Gullah, or is just some like gully, like dirty jers, gully type stuff? Talk to me. What's going on? Islam Vibrations. Oh, you know what today is? Friday. Today is happy holiday to all Muslims around the world. Friday is designated as the holy day for all Muslims because that's the day man came into flesh and the day the man departed out of flesh. For that reason, Friday is designated for the holy day of all Muslims around the world. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah. Peace to all y'all. Showing love to y'all. Shalom to my Hebrews and amen to my Christians. Thank you. No, thank you for joining. If you could do me a favor and go ahead and hit that share button, that'd be great. A couple more people. Sean, okay, we got some Aborigine. I'm sorry, Aborigine. I'm not apologizing, but that's the correct way to say it is Aborigine. Aboriginal is a dirty English version of what the word means, by the way. So Aborigine in the building. Hey Ron, what's going on, brother? I ain't seen you in a minute. Peace and love. All right, so we're gonna jump in and get started, man. This next brother I'm about to bring in here, man. I heard the brother the other night. I'm like, oh, I got to get him on everything I do because we was kind of speaking the same language, man. And I appreciate that. So quick shouts. Truth Speaks with Chief Cali in the building. Halito, peace and love, brother. Bro at work, tapping in. Appreciate you, my guy. We got to get, hey, Chief, what time is it? Chief said he not off the plantation to about 7:20. So, Chief, as soon as you leave the plantation, bro, tap in from the car on the way home. Tap in. We got to get Chief over here. I want to introduce you, to everybody. You got to check this brother out, man. So, without further ado, man, this next brother I'm about to introduce, the next voice you're going to hear, this brother here, man, I felt like just through conversation, never met him in person, but he's a fellow Georgian like myself. When I heard the brother speak, I'm like, oh, yeah. He on the same energy. I like linking people to the same. It makes the conversation easier when somebody's on the same energy. So, Brother Bones, peace and light, brother. Tell the people who you are, man.
Greetings. First of all, I want to say thanks for the invite. Enjoyed the conversation the other night and look forward to many more like these.
For sure.
And A lot of people in the community know me as Bones. I started the Cab Grand Rising show years ago, and then from there turned that into a nonprofit organization, working in communities, helping Indigenous Americans with their roots, and also showing them what programs are still available through government that we can use to rebuild our community. And now it's been going on 7 years I've been doing this.
Wow. Brother got roots in the community doing this, man. So thank you for joining. I also sent the invitation to Greg and Chief Cali, of course, if they can get up, hop on at some point. So, bro, we're just gonna spend a little bit of time. I'm gonna go through my TikTok, and I got a lot of great stuff. I feel it's a lot of great stuff on my TikTok that I kind of want to walk through the historicity of. We're talking about the Choctaw, Chickamauga, the Gullah, the Yamacraw, Yamasee, Washita, all of the tribes of the Southeast region, and maybe you can help us understand that this is a real thing. There's a big debate, well, not a big debate, but a big debacle on TikTok about the so-called Negroes are not the indigenous folks of North America. But I wanted to have you on to add value and point out some areas that we may not be familiar with. I'm pretty versed with some of the history going back to 1526 with the first Spanish colony in South Carolina that brought over the first migrants from Africa, who were commonly referred to as the Atlantic slave trade. But feel free to go as deep as you need to, bro. I can pull up whatever you need me to pull up because I like to show receipts. But to the listening audience who's never heard me before speak, a lot of y'all have, you're used to how I get down. Don't believe a word I say. I'm not here to convince or persuade anybody. This is just information. Everything we talk about tonight, please go do your own research and it becomes something you know, not something you heard. Shouts out to the pen and pad gang, the pen and paper gang. That's something that I got going on, bro, called the pen and paper gang. So the way I conduct it is I'm not here for entertainment purposes. This is a classroom setting. So feel free to go into depth and talk about it and bring up points. And this audience that myself and Crum mostly have constructed, they're full of master students and disciples. They're very learned people. So don't feel like you're going over their head or you're going too far. Just trust me, they know a lot of information, but they're here seeking more because we're always in master student mode. So with that being said, I want to see if you know anything about the Chickasaw freemen. And I guess my question is, I know that Africans did amalgamate with some of the Native American tribes, but how are all Africans being lumped as just being Native Americans? Like kind of talk to us a little bit about why that is happening, why there's no differentiations between the Africans who came amongst the Native Americans and then the actual Black Native Americans who are already here. Like, what are we missing with that?
Basically, you have to look at the time frame to where they just lump people in categories for status and resources. Because at one time, if you go far enough back, Chinese were considered Negro. At one time, Italians were considered Negro. At one time, Germans were considered Negroes. And you find this just by going through looking at the U.S. Census and just by knowing the classifications. At one time, it was only what? Free white males. Then you had free white women, all others free, and slaves. So eventually, when the categories just formed, you only had whites and Negroes. You didn't get Chinese until the late 1800s. So there was their way of lumping people in to remove your history. And again, yes, I'm not one that says that no Africans came over here in the slave trade. That'd be correct to say no one came that way when there's records that show you do have people that came that way. But the only way an individual would know is through what we call genealogy, which is family history and research. Everyone in here has a parent that has a parent that has parents that has parents that has parents. And what we tend to do is trace it back through birth certificates, records, tax records, property records, as far back as you possibly can go. And sometimes you will find out that a lot of you do tie into the original indigenous tribes here. And then some people have relatives that come from foreign nations. I mean, come on, it's 2024. Everybody's mixed with a little something now. We just have to start being honest about it.
Right.
It's up to you if you want to know what you're mixed of, what you're made of. If you want to know where you come from, then as an individual, much research as possible. Because the biggest problem that we face today is when you allow somebody to tell you who you are, then you allow them to place you where they want to place you. And if you never know where you came from, you're never going to get to where you're going. You have to know your starting point. It's the main reason why. It's why I feel like in a lot of our communities here, we feel disattached because we bought a story that everybody with dark skin came from someplace else. So you don't see this as your home. You don't see us having a responsibility here to fix the land, to take care of the things that they damaged here. But once you find out this is your home, it activates a little bit more responsibility in you because this is your home.
That's facts. That's facts. So now I know when I first started coming across a lot of information years ago, when I first noticed, like there was let me do air quotes, I'm on camera, air quote, there were a enslaved black population, but there's also a population of free blacks who were never enslaved. Could these be the individuals who were the Indians and those enslaved folks were actually African?
Well, the part of history that a lot of people glance over, before they enslaved anyone else and brought them here, they were enslaving Indians first. Fact. The first slave trade in America is the American Indian slave trade. This is how tribes started warring with each other again, because certain tribes partnered up with certain nations and enslaved other tribes. Sold them from guns and profits. And these things, and like you said before, because I come from the same thing to where proof is not a problem. Anything that's being said, feel free to write it down, look it up to see for yourself, because that's the best way you obtain knowledge. We got into this situation by allowing people for years to tell us what it was and never finding out for ourselves.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So let's talk about this for a second. The Indian slave trade in American Southeast. Notice the location. And when I did still doing my studying, I have yet to go out west. I'm familiar with what I call the teepee Indians or the nomadic Indians, the ones who slept in teepees or tents. Those are just tents. They didn't have any fixed locations like the mound builders who came about 8,000 years before they got here. But I haven't made it out west yet to deal with that populations of Native Americans. But it seems there's a rich history in the southeast region of North America, family. If you want to start your studying, well, I started mine from Virginia and came down the East Coast first, and I'm still there. I mean, I'm familiar with the interior history of so-called Indians inside the interior of Southeast, but the southeastern seaboard of North America, if you just start there, here's what I found about the Indian slave trade. The Indian slave trade in America Southeast, we're not in New York. We're not in what they call New England territory. We're in the Southeast territory. Refers to a historical practice where European colonists, primarily from the British colonies, and they made that point because as we're going to go along, we're going to see that the Spaniards had damn near conquered the entire southeast region of America. Okay, that's right. It was called New Florida or Floridian, something like that, all the way up to Georgia territory. Spain owned all that. Spain owned Alabama,
Louisiana, Mississippi, all that was called La Florida. You're correct. Yeah, that's La Florida. That's what the Spanish named it.
Look, La Florida and Spain actually sold the territory of Louisiana to France. Okay, but before we get there, we have to deal with the Second Treaty of Paris that took place. And I'm just because me, bro, how I teach and how I talk on timelines. Like I'm suited. They know me. I'm gonna give you timelines, when, where it happened. That's how my brain is programmed, because it makes more sense if we can explain stuff given dates. I don't like to do what's called barbershop talk, which is just talking outside of your neck. I like to give people time, space, and that helps us because a lot of people are looking. A lot of people are trying to do their genealogy, and I was fortunate enough to look on my dad's side. My great grandmother is Yamakra, so I have a starting point, and it's a lot of information, man. Because I have my aunt, she's 92, still alive, still in her right mind. I'm gonna get with her tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, or Saturday evening rather, and bring a tape recorder and just ask her questions. I think that's one of the best ways. Or is oral tradition and genealogy research, is that better than the blood test they're doing, 23andMe?
Yes, because contrary to belief, there is no blood test that you can take that's going to tell you that you're an American Indian. This is impossible. See, the problem is that, again, we let people tell us things and don't look it up. A DNA test is supposed to give you a person, not a landmass.
Wow.
So when you take these DNA tests and they're not giving you living people, now we have a problem. Because how can you give me DNA results if you don't have that person that died 1,000 years ago DNA to test it against? Unless they're digging up all these graves and getting DNA from all these ancestors that passed away, what are they testing it to? No, what they're doing with these DNA tests, they're looking for similar markers. But if you understand DNA, you know all DNA is 99.9% the same. That little 1% there, that's the look, eye color, hair color. Other than that, it's the same. So you're going to find similarities in all human beings.
Damn. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this article right here. They're claiming that they found the oldest Y chromosome in South Carolina, according to researchers. It says, according to researchers, the oldest Y chromosome identity is in South Carolina belongs to African American. Of course, I don't want nobody to get tripped up on these terminologies: African American, Black, Negro, colored, etc. You know, those are all labels given to us by slaveholders in 1779. African American was Jesse Jackson in the 80s. So we'll talk about the name change in a second, but belongs to an African American man named Albert Perry, whose unique Y chromosome lineage indicates a most recent common ancestor dating back to around 338,000 years ago, significantly older than the previous estimated Y chromosome Adam. Now they're referring to Zanthropus. And I'm gonna go somewhere with this point and then come back to Bones for his commentary. But they're saying that the oldest 330,000 years ago DNA sample came from a descendant of Albert Perry, an African American man from South Carolina. This Y chromosome lineage is considered an outgroup to all other Y haplotypes, meaning it split from the rest of the human Y chromosome tree very early on. Age estimate. Researchers estimate that the most recent common ancestor of this lineage lived around 338,000 years ago, which pushed back the timeline of the human Y chromosome. Why is this so important? Because I'm going to show you why. What's his name? Dr. Leakey. If you guys are not familiar with these people, just take notes, but a lot of you should be. This is Dr. Leakey. Dr. Leakey and his wife came across another hominoid who they referred to as Zanthropus. Now, Dr. Louis Leakey was a paleontologist and archaeologist. So you have paleontology, you have archaeology, all right? That's dealing with digging up actual human remains. Then you have, what's the other one? Paleontologist, archaeologist is one more. Geographers, dealing with the layout of the planet. So this is all going to stem back to what they call the out of Africa theory. I'm gonna find the old fossil here in a second, but this is dealing with the out of Africa theory, and this is what I formulated out of Africa theory, and it's still a theory. All right, let's find out this old. Now Lucy is another one. Of course, there is Lucy, which is one of the oldest female types that they claim that they found, or whatever the case is. But you have to keep in mind these are not human beings. These are not human beings. This is another haplogroup of individuals. Now, to my knowledge,
even if you go further with Lucy, and not to cut off your wisdom, but if you go further with Lucy, you will find out Lucy is an ape, not even a human being.
Exactly. Exactly. But see, that's the point people like to love to argue. Like, black people, no, that's not a black person. That's a whole nother hominoid. In November 1931, Lewis led an expedition to Ottawa, I'm saying that correctly, it's in Africa, whose members included Rek, whom Lewis allowed to enter the Gork first. Leakey had bet Rek that Leakey would find whatever that is, the tools they're looking for in the first 24 hours. So this is the debate got going on. Non-humanoid fossils and tools were extracted from large ground numbers. And let's dive into what they called it real quick. Actually, I think Dr. Leakey had got sick, and his wife actually came across this dig. And again, the reason this is so important is because we can trace ourselves back to Africa, but the out of Africa notion comes from stuff of this nature. Let me just type it in because I can't. It's somewhere at the bottom where he found it. And if anybody's research, you probably gave up by now. Just stop scrolling, stop looking. But he found the oldest hominoid that he declared to be Homo habilis. There it is right here. Homo sapien. There we go. All right. Homo sapiens. And I'm going back this far because when we talk about the origin of species, this is dealing with what's his name? Your boy, evolution guy. What's the evolution guy name? What's his name? The white boy came up with the evolution theory. Charles Darwin.
Charles Darwin, yeah.
So Charles Darwin put out this theory. It's called the origin of species, evolution, survival of the fittest. That's the whole title of the whole book, right? And this Homo group that they put together. Homo means human in Latin, by the way. Homo sapiens, you have Homo sapiens, then you have Homo erectus, which predates those. Then you have another group up north that's dealing with Cro-Magnon, Pecan, and Java Man, and so on and so forth. So Homo sapiens, this is what they came across. This dig, supposedly. Here it is right here. 1959, excavation at bed 1 were open while Lewis was sick. So Dr. Leakey didn't actually find it. His wife, Mary, discovered it. Mary discovered the fossil skull OH5, and this is the dig site. Palanthropus bias, also known as Africa's robustus, which is the other name for it. And this is the ape skull it's talking about right here. Species. This is the point I'm getting to, right, family? Oh, crap. This is the point I'm trying to show you right here. Australopithecus. Australopithecus. Write that down. Because the Australopithecus, there's the Eurocentric phenotype, there's the Africoid phenotype, and then there's the Australoid phenotype. The Australoid phenotype, we don't talk about that, or people don't talk about that. The Australoid phenotype is the people over in Fiji, the Peloponnesian Islands, the Micronesian Islands, going that way. But the map they show us is so jacked up, we really think that Africa is closer to North America than it is. Actually, Australia and the Peloponnesian Islands, the Philippine area is closer to the shores of South Central America than Africa is closer to us on the correct map. So write that down. That's a phenotype we have to deal with. I hear nobody talk about the Australoid phenotype. It's always the Africoid phenotype that we think that everybody has that wide nose, thick lip, which is an African feature, when it's also an Australoid feature. Anyway, the excavation took place at Bed 1. The famously identified as Zenzinthropus or Zenzinthropus. Zenzinthropus. This is not a black person. This is not an African. Could we trace the origin of species to African people? And this is what what's his name? God rest his soul. Rashid. Dr. Rashid talked about this. Onoku Rashid talked about the Pygmy and the Twa people out of Africa. See, they keep us on the East Coast looking off the front porch of America over to Africa. They never teach us about the back porch of America and what came that way. So my question to you, Brother Bones, is what is your stance on the out of Africa theory that we all from Africa?
Exactly what it is, a theory. And then once you, I mean, because again, you have to realize why this was created. And again, this was created. This was created for Darwin to put his class above everybody. This is when they're trying to tell you that the so-called Africans were monkeys. They're the lowest form of a human being and the highest form of a monkey. That's why I say at times, that's why I like what you mentioned about the timelines. Because we have to go back to when they were writing this stuff and we have to put it in context. What were they writing about? Why were they writing it? And what were they trying to prove? They were trying to put their place on top and everybody else beneath. And next question is, how long does sun stay a theory with unproven before we throw it out the window?
Oh, man. And that's something that I speak on a lot by saying that the out of Africa theory and all that kind of propaganda was perpetuated through what's called pseudoscience. And I always show a couple of different pseudoscientists. And this is the latter part of the 1800s, by the way. Like this is post supposed slavery. This is going into the early 1900s, and a lot of science had to be explained about these people, aka so-called Negroes. A lot of history had to be explained about these people because they brought some in by way of schooners, which you call slave ships. They brought some by way of schooners, and some were already here, and some came from the other way. So how do we give the correct history and the correct biology of these individuals? We just lump them all together and say they all came from monkeys. That's the best way. When we all know, right, that these YT people, they came from monkeys. They're still being born with tails. They come from what's called a troglodyte nigger or Niger nigger. It means black, troglodyte nigger. They came out of the—
Call it what it is.
Right.
Call it what it is. Recessive genes.
Come on now. Come on.
Recessive. I mean, if we're gonna be correct, and we're gonna bring science in it,
please.
Fair skin in science is known as recessive genes. Straight hair is a recessive gene trait. You even see it in the animal kingdom. That's why you can have a white alligator, white insects, white rodents, white dogs. And what do they all tell you about it? It's a genetic defect. Albinoism, extreme albinoism.
Yep. And if you look up Mendel's law of dealing with recessivism, dark is dominant and light is recessive. You can get the light from the dominant, but you can't get the dominant from the recessive. That's Mendel's law. Now, Melville Herkovich is the father of African American studies.
Let that sink in, please. Bring his picture back up. Yeah, we're gonna have fun doing this.
This is the father of African. I'm bringing his picture back up like you asked again.
Yeah, just so the audience can get a real good look at him and who created African studies.
African studies, African American studies, or African studies comes from Melville Herkovich, anthropologist. He was the student of Franz Boas. I'm gonna show you Franz Boas in a second and show who Franz Boas is. Okay, so just pay attention to this stuff. I know we got a lot of Pan-Africans who I'll gladly challenge. Pan-Africans, and I always ask Pan-Africans, who was the father of Pan-Africanism? Matter of fact, I'm gonna ask the question to the chat. Who was the father of Pan-Africanism? Maybe I get a green screen. Who was the father of Pan-Africanism? Anybody in the chat? Anybody, everybody. Put in the chat, who was the father of Pan-Africanism? And this is the question I ask the Pan-Africans all the time. Who's the father of Pan-Africanism? And typically you get people like put Franz Boas. Typically get people like saying what's his name? Marcus Garvey is the father of Pan-Africanism, because a lot of people model their attitudes after Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and they say he's the father of Pan-Africanism until you find out that he was a student of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
He was the student of Deuce Muhammad Ali. He got Umar. Deuce Muhammad Ali. Okay, supposedly Marcus Garvey. No, Marcus Garvey was a student of Deuce Muhammad Ali. And nope, not W. Du Bois. This is okay. Let me show y'all who I'm talking about. Deuce Muhammad Ali. Watch this. Deuce Muhammad Ali.
According to Wikipedia, Deuce Muhammad Ali was
This
a
is the
Sudanese
father of Pan-Africanism right here. Ooh, we got a Fez on before Noble Drew Ali was born. He's also the teacher of Noble Drew Ali teacher too.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. This is the father of Pan-Africanism right here.
And you also have him. You have the other brother. Oh, hold on. Delaney Cromwell. You also got Henry Sylvester Williams. Yeah, these are the people that created this.
Now, when I did my research, it was interesting. Islam Moors. Today is holy day. This is Deuce Muhammad Ali. He was born in 1866. He died in 1945. Deuce Muhammad Ali was a Sudanese Egyptian actor and political activist who became known for his African nationalism. That's what Pan-Africanism means. It's a nationalism notion of something, right? He was also a playwright, historian, a journalist, editor, and publisher. In 1912, he founded the African Times and the Orient Review. Later revived as the African and Orient Review, which published in total through 1920. Keep the timeline in mind, please. I told you guys early 1900s, late 1800s. That's the timeline we're dealing with right now at this moment. He lived and worked mostly in England alongside the United States and Nigeria, respectively. In his latter location, he founded a Comet Press Ltd., the Comet newspaper in Lagos. So he was born in Egypt. He was born an Egyptian, literally an Egyptian. Okay, watch this. We're going to go into some of his other history. Mind-blowing, earth-shattering. Lecturer and journalist. And this is wiki, so, take it for what it's worth. The young Marcus Garvey, then studying in London from Jamaica, frequently visited Ali's Fleet Street office and was mentored by him. Ooh-wee, Marcus Garvey.
And just to add something on, if I may, what a lot of people don't tell you about this Pan-African thing, it had nothing to do with the Americas. It started because they were fighting colonialism in Africa. And when these dudes went over here and learned from these people, they bought it back and tried to run it on us.
Yep. Now, notice that young Garvey is working with him and the movement that Garvey kicks off. And I'm going to show you that this Back to Africa movement wasn't for the indigenous Native American black folks here. They didn't want to go no way. W.E. Du Bois was not for that shit. Like, we're not going nowhere. Why we had to go over there for? But you notice Marcus Garvey, when he came from the islands of Jamaica, he didn't come to Alabama or South Carolina with that information. He went right to New York. And to this day in 2024, New York is the biggest population for island people. I don't know why they go to New York.
You said it. I'm glad you said it. I'm sorry. Woo!
No, go. I want you to go in, bro. Go.
No, but like you just hit it on the head. If you study history lets you know about all the immigrants coming through Ellis Island. That's where everybody was coming. So he knew he couldn't pass that message off because, again, like I said, the message wasn't for the Americas. You got to remember, they colonized America first, then they went to Africa. At the time that when we was coming in and voting and stuff over here, remember, the scramble for Africa is at the top of the 1900s. This is because they got the cure. They got the cure for malaria from the Americas. Then they was able to colonize Africa. They couldn't get past the coast of Africa. Like all that Zulu, Shaka Zulu and all that was made up. Shaka Zulu wasn't even around by the time the British got there. He was already dead naturally.
Yep. It says the young Marcus Garvey, then studying in London from Jamaica, frequently visited Ali's Fleet Street office and was mentored by him. The journal covered issues in the United States, the Caribbean, West Africa, South Africa, and Egypt. Garvey briefly worked with Ali and contributed an article to the journal's October 1913 issue. Okay, now let's find out some other people that he mentored. So let's go here first. In 1921, following the demise of the African and Oriented Review, Ali traveled to the United States, never returning to Britain In the U.S., he briefly worked with Garvey's UNIC. So now we know who was also working with him. He also contributed articles on Africa issues on the UNIA, the Negro World. He taught in a Department of African Affairs. And I'm giving this backdrop before we get back into the Native American part to show you this African study and this out of Africa theory and this African umbrella of information. What wasn't for everybody. It was for a select amount of people, and mainly the island people, because a lot of the islanders are truly from Africa. And that's not making a stab at nobody. It's just it is what it is. You can take a look at their culture and a lot of their information, and you'll see that. Here we go. Right, he's right here. I passed it. I think I passed it somewhere. He's talking about. I'm typing it real quick. He was talking about Noble Drew Ali. But anyway, this was the first remnants of that African movement, the out of Africa movement. Pull back up Melvin Herkovich because I wasn't done with him yet.
And when you get finished, I put a name in the chat back here for you to pull up for the audience whenever you get finished.
All right, I pulled up next after we finish scrambling Melvin Herkovich ass. I want them to really understand who he is. So again, this is Melvin Herkovich. I'm showing you the father of African and African diaspora. So anything you think you know about the out of Africa, see, African American studies. So all you HBCU graduates, this is the father of that discipline. And it'd have been really cool if it was somebody of color from Africa giving you that. Like if it was actually somebody like Deuce Muhammad, I would have preferred Deuce Muhammad would have been the father of African study, or so many other people could have been the father of African study, people of color, but it wasn't. It was a European.
And this is why they were doing this. This is why they created Pan-Africanism. Nothing to do with the Americas. They was fighting colonialism over there, rewriting their history. How our history over here was rewritten, they rewrote the history over there, and this is what they were fighting over.
Yep. Now let me read this for you real quick. Melvin Jean Herkovich, February 1895. I guess he unalive in 63. Was an American anthropologist who helped first establish African and African diaspora study. What is African diaspora study? It's the total diaspora of African people all over the world. African study is a study of Africa, especially in the continents, culture, and societies. Now, we can also, I'm going to say this next comment very respectfully. You also got individuals who I came up studying 15 years ago, like Dr. John Henry Clark, not so much Ivan Van Sertima, but John G. Jackson, and those individuals who were hammer time hard on the African diaspora. I can't even say Dr. John Henry Clark. Dr. John Henry Clark always taught, if you want to know our history, go study Western European history. That's why I became so sharp in Western philosophy or European history due to John Henry Clark. But anyway, Melvin Herkovich was an American anthropologist who helped first establish African and African diaspora studies in American academia. He's also known for exploring the culture and the continuity from Africa and African cultures as expressed in the African American community.
Can we pause right there?
For real, come on.
Can we pause right there? Again, he is known for exploring the cultural continuity from African cultures as expressed in African American communities. Now remember, y'all, what year is this when he's doing this? So explain to me who would have anything on any African slave trade that you can talk to that can tell this man.
I'll wait.
I'm like,
I'll wait because it doesn't exist, bro. So he is known for exploring the culture and continuity from African cultures as expressed in African American communities. He worked with his wife, Frances Sahara Herkovich, also an anthropologist, Remember earlier when Dr. Leakey and Mary were anthropologists and archaeologists? It's going to be a lot of Europeans who I'm going to show you here in a second, who were anthropologists, archaeologists, who all fell under the classification of pseudoscientists. Nothing was proven. And he was born around the time a person by the name of Johann Blumenbacher had already established what a Caucasian looked like, using the word for the first time, Caucasian ever. What the African face looked like, what the Chinese face looked like. He had already established this phenotypical study. So the study of phenotypes had already been established by the time they come on the scene. And the phenotype study is because you look like them, you must be them. And that's what that was. Now, it says he worked with Francis Herkovich, also anthropologist in the field in South America, the Caribbean, and Africa. They jointly wrote several books and monographs. They never studied in North America. You see that? But they're giving you the plausible education pieces for where the African American studies came from. And he hung around a lot of prominent Black Negroes of that day. Okay. He studied how some aspects of African culture and African traditions were expressed in the African American culture in the 1900s. Now, 77 years later, they give you roots, which is not a long time. So they had to introduce the notion that you're from Africa. They had to give you the notion that they're from Africa. Then we're going to give you the first movie depicting you being from Africa. And you have to imagine what that did to Black people's mind frame. So I just wanted to introduce who he was. I'm gonna show you one more. We're gonna move on to somebody that bro just gave me. Franz Boas is another person you should write down and understand who he was. He's an intricate person to this African study. See, when the Pan-Africans talk crap about the Pan-Indigenous Indian movement or whatever the case is, they can't bring up information like this about who told, like, we're showing receipts. As you'll see in a minute, I'm showing you receipts of our people sitting down, putting themselves on the roll as Indians. I can show you receipts of the Indian slave trade. I can show you receipts of the first colony coming into South Carolina in 1526 by the Spanish, where only 100 Africans came over here. And they all ran away, by the way. All 100.
And I'm glad you said that too, because that's the next problem with history. We're letting British history tell us what happened, and they were the last one that came. The Spanish and the French was over here for 200 years before the British even knew what was going on. Britain didn't even exist when Spain and France was over here. A lot of people don't know that before Britain was here, America was called New France. Write that down and they can look it up. Look up New France. You would be surprised.
That's facts. Facts on facts on facts. So write him down. Franz Boas. We don't have time to get into who he is tonight, but he is the father of anthropology, of modern anthropology. And I can show you a lot of, when they say the father of, they mean they're like the father of our great nation, the fathers of our great nation. They're coining these individuals as the go-to first established person who brought this particular idea to the public forefront. Okay, so Franz Boas is the father of anthropology. Then his student, who I just showed you, Melvin Herkovich, his student went on to be the father of African American studies, Melvin Herkovich, and there were others involved too. I just wanted to point those two people out. Now, let's put up the individual that you was talking about, bro, because I'm interested to see what you're gonna say about him, because I think I came across him, but you might can refresh my memory. Okay, who is this?
This is one. Well, Edward is in that group of people that migrated to Sierra Leone. These are people that came from there that they sent back after they gave them this story. And once they sent him over there, if you know the story about Sierra Leone, when the Americans went over there, a war broke out because they wasn't from there. And these people started writing back about it, writing about what happened, writing about the treatment about it. But this is why people won't tell you about them, because it debunks the story that they want to try to tell you.
Now you saying that he was from Africa and came to the Americas, went back over there, or
Yeah, he was born in the Americas. You remember when they did Liberian and all that? Yeah, the real father of Pan-Africanism.
Good gracious, that is crazy. Thank you.
This is where, because he went over there and became the Liberian ambassador and a politician over there. And if you notice, all these people are so-called educators, writers, and diplomats.
Yep.
He was born in the Danish West Indies. He joined the wave of black immigrants from the Americas who migrated to Liberia.
Wow.
He became a teacher over there. And what did they say? A teacher for 5 years in the what? British West African colony.
Yep. Now,
all they did, the same thing they did with the Indians. You send them to school. You teach a certain group of people, then you send them back around so they can teach the rest.
Damn. So, is this any way tied into the Yep, never mind. I see it right here. His ideas went to influence Marcus. So Marcus Garvey had a double dose of those Africans being
you see Kwame, all them.
Kwame Ture. Good gracious. There it is. The RBG. The red, black, and the green.
This is who created it.
He joined the waves of black immigrants from the Americas who migrated to Liberia. That was under the what did they call that? That Back to Africa movement earlier.
The Back to Africa movement, the very first one by the hold on. It's coming to me. The society. Oh, off the top of my head.
Oh God.
Oh, it's a society that did it. American. Give me a second to come back to me.
I got it right here. Thank you, Skynet. The pre-colonial African society was a diverse and complex with varieties of political systems, social structures, and cultural belief. Political system, pre-colonial Africa had a variety of. This is not it though. This is not the one I'm talking about. There was a
American Colonization Society.
Okay, there we go. American Colonization Society.
Yeah. That's who came up with sending people back to Africa. Then when you look at these people, none of them look like you.
There we go. Here it is. Now, look at this right here. That's crazy. They send them to Liberia. And I just want to bring it up because we just talked about the brother going to Liberia. This was a colony side up to go back. And this is the same thing that Garvey was trying to do. Remember, Garvey had the White Star Line cruise ships to take people back over to Africa. However, the local population Negroes like, we didn't come from there. We're not going back to somewhere we didn't come from. But it was for all of the Africans who were already here. And I'm going to show you a particular African. Several Africans came here from Africa. Several, not in the millions, not to North America. And that's something that I ask people to always tell people to ask the question. I'm not saying that there's not a African slave trade. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply asking you, and anybody who want to challenge it, I'm simply asking you, which America did they come to, and what year did they come to that part of America? That's all I ask for me. I'm not saying that the transatlantic slave trade didn't happen the way they said it happened. It was probably worse than that. We don't know. We wasn't there.
But when you read it, what it say again? See, that's why I tell people context is key. It says an organization that transported free black people and emancipated slaves to Africa.
Let's get into it.
So if you're transporting free, see, they worded it a particular way. In English, language is very critical, especially with definitions. Free black people and emancipated. So they're letting you know that they know that some of these people they calling black were never enslaved. Didn't come here as slaves.
No, hell no. Yeah, free Negroes who never were enslaved. The audience know. I showed people like Hiram Revels and others who were senators who never been enslaved. That's something we got to deal with too, bro. On a live, it's something that I'm working on right now. Is showing our people that there were two societies during supposed slavery too. There was a society of free Negroes who they hardly ever mention. They're mentioned, but you have to dig to see where they're mentioned at. They'll say enslaved Negroes and then people, free people of color. Like, wait a minute, there's two different groups. Yeah, that's just like myself, the brother Bones. Like, we're out here doing our thing, going to work or whatever. Got our family, we kicking it. But there's brothers behind bars who will never get out. So 1,000 years, 400 years from now, they're going to write about a society of people of color who were always in prison. So they can write history 400 years from now, making it seem like everybody who's incarcerated were slaves, and they would never mention the Michael Jordans or the Oprahs of the world who were millionaires and free. There were over 4,475 millionaires during slavery, black millionaires during slavery. There were over abundance of 20 plus black slave owners. One of the most popular black slave owner in Louisiana was also a senator for the state of Louisiana.
And you have to ask yourself, if the problem was your black skin and they treated you like an animal, who was these colored people buying slaves from? What slave? You understand what I'm saying? They're telling you at this point in history that you was the lower than an animal, and nobody deal with you. So where did they get the money from to buy this stuff? Who was selling it to them? Where did they get the materials? Sometimes we have to use common sense.
It says the American Colonization Society, initially Society for Colonization of Free People of Color in America, was an American organization founded in 1816 by Robert Finley to encourage and support the reparations. I can show you where Lincoln gave out reparations in 1861. It's called the Emancipation Compensation Act. I'll show you in a second. Freeborn people of color and emancipated slaves to the continent of Africa. It was modeled on the earlier British Committee of Relief for Blacks' Poors. Colonization of Africa, in which they had sought to resettle London's poor blacks until the organization dissolution in 1964. The society was headquartered in room 516 of the Colorado building in Washington, D.C. I bet you didn't catch this right here.
What year was that again? What year again?
What year? 64?
What year did they dissolve this society? Let's say 1964. What was going on in the 60s with our people? Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's Civil Rights Permission Act. Civil rights.
Again, see, they were doing this because if you go back in the 60s, you would see there was a large influx of Africans, real actual Africans that came here in the 60s.
Yeah, that's facts. This says, which sought to resettle London's black poor. You had people from British who were black, born and raised in Britain, born and raised in England, just like today. There are people of color in England right now. These folks came from London. Some came from Africa. One particular Angolan who came from Angola under indentured servitude. What was his name? Anthony Johnson. Let's learn about Anthony Johnson real quick. Anthony Johnson was likely born in Africa, possibly in Angola. He was enslaved before being transported to Virginia in 1621. He was not the first slave owner of North America, and the claim that he was historically false and misleading. Of course, he wasn't the first slave owner. That's ridiculous. Johnson was enslaved by English settler when he arrived in Virginia. He was owned by Richard Bennett until 1635. Johnson and his wife likely gained their freedom through self-purchase around 1635. In order to gain freedom through self-purchase, which many Africans from Africa who was under contracts as servants, you had to be getting paid. So if you're getting paid, you're not a slave. If you're getting paid. The ambiguous term of enslaved and servant came under scrutiny in the Virginia colonies in 1663. And they began to set forth terms of what a slave was and what a servant was. In fact, servitude was dissolved by 1773. By the time the formation of the Georgia colony came into play, Georgia was set up not to be a slave state by James Oglethorpe. So it was a lot of legislation going around to change the terminology, but we still think when we see the word enslave or slave, that means same thing. These were contract workers from Africa, from Angola.
Exactly.
They show you many more contracted Angolans who came here under contract, who they call it slaves. So when we talk to the our TP brethren who say that thinking that we are them, they don't understand the history, that there's two different dynamics of Africans and African Americans. African Americans is a created term, is a created creature. I always say the niggas in America are created individuals. It was just a creation of fallacy. And we can sit here all night backtracking history, showing you what it was. But the point I'm making is I'm going to first show you the Africans who came, and then we're going to talk about the individuals who were already here, pre-Africans arriving. That some of the Africans joined the Native American tribes? Damn right they did. But my question was, I think somebody said it before, they just stopped being African? I mean, they just turned it off.
And even that, I'm sorry to cut you off, and even that is dangerous when we say African, because that term only has a definition in America. Because when you go to that continent, them people don't use that. They call themselves by the nation that they belong to. It's only once you in America they say that. Because if you talk to them, they'll say what? I'm Ethiopian, I'm Nigerian, I'm Somalian. They're going to claim their nation, not the whole landmass. They don't identify that way.
Yep. That's exactly what they're going to say. That's exactly what they're going to say. You call them, they don't do the whole black and white thing either. You know what I'm saying? So let's read on about Johnson real quick. Hold on. Need a charger. He was a landowner in 1640. He also acquired a patent for 250 acres. That word patent is very important because in 1663, the Carolinas, it wasn't called South or North Carolina yet. It's called the Carolinas. In 1663, that territory right below Virginia became what's known as Lord Proprietor. Lord Proprietor is a grant given by King Charles. That's why Charleston, Carolina is a Latin phrase for Charles. Just like
Charles, yes, correct.
Georgia is King George. So I told you before, there's three kings: James, Charles, and George. And those three kings had proprietary dominion over the land in North America due to what was called the Indica Terra Cavina, given from Spain under the Papal Bull in 1493.
Because the question that a lot of people don't ask, where was their food being grown at?
Wow.
They had the land over here in America. When they tell you the majority of the foods that's over there came from here, this is what they were doing at this time. When they were coming over here, setting up shop, they were growing food and stuff. Indians was teaching them and it was going back. Why do you think you can look up when the Irish famine happened, the Choctaw sent them potatoes? They just paid them back a couple of years ago.
Wow. Told y'all, we teaching. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we just hit the 1 hour mark. And I want to ask you guys to, if you haven't already, please share this live, tap in with your people, do a quick commercial break. MOI clothing brand has hit the situation, hit the shop. If you guys want to shop with me, if you guys just want to, it's an actual website, by the way. I thought I had pulled it over here. It's an actual website. I go through the site real quick at the end of the show. But definitely, if you feel like you want to support or just browse around on the site, shoot me an email. A couple people already shot me an email. I appreciate y'all. I'll set the link over. Go browse around on the website. This is me creating, just being a creative individual. Please tap in with me and support. You know, there's a discount code I'm giving away right now. It's a sale popping off, sale going on. This is the site, new collection. M.O.I. clothing line is a contemporary fashion brand that blends modern style with the cultural heritage, offering unique, high-quality apparel from individuals who value self-expression and empowerment. See, you know what I'm saying? That's the brand. That's the movement. Get a hoodie. It's about to get cold as fuck outside. This is the God Vibes brand. I got some more stuff coming with that. I created it. I thought it was dope. Matthew 24:4. Go check that out. And my Urban Legacy, and of course the Minister of Information joint, and then the creator, which says woke right under the creator brand. So yeah, pause for the cause on that. Mr. Bones, you got anything coming up, bro? Anything popping off here in the near future that you want to plug in real quick?
Well, this year I already started working on our 7th annual Day of the Dead festival that we do here in Tifton. We do a festival to where the indigenous community, we get together, cook out, eat, exchange family history and stories, and we do it every year in October.
Okay. What's the date? The actual date for that?
I'll know the actual date by this weekend because I'm waiting on the city to get back to me because we rent out the park and everything. So,
Heard. As soon as you get that together, a flyer with bros, send me a flyer so I can start pushing it over here and out in. If you didn't know, the good brother, he's in Georgia. I'm in Georgia. I'm in up in the Gwinnett County territory. So I'll definitely come down to support you any kind of way that I can. Definitely want to be a part of that. Have you had a chance to go to is it called Rock Eagle? That mound?
Rock. No, I haven't been to Rock Eagle Mound. I've been to Ottawa mounds, the mounds in New Orleans, a couple of them, because me and Caleb, we did a couple of tours to the mounds. We took the children from the community, we take them out, teach them indigenous American history, so they can be hands-on to know that, yes, do your family research, you'll be surprised that this has always been your home.
No, that's right, man. Facts on facts on facts. Appreciate you on that, bro. But yeah, you get the information, definitely share it. Anthony Johnson appeared in Northampton court. Now, this was interesting. This is another way you know that Mr. Anthony Johnson wasn't one of those enslaved black folks. This is the 1600s. The slavery laws that we're taught in school, or the slavery ideology that we were taught, is from the 1800s. I'm gonna tell you about that in a minute too. That's why I told you movies like Roots, 12 Years a Slave, Django, those movies took place in the 1800s. 1600s was a different kind of slavery. 1600s was all about servitude. In the 1600s, there was no if you're black or if you're white. It was either belong to the crown or a sovereign nation or you didn't. It was, What was that? You either belong to the crown.
Like you said, them terms didn't exist in the 1600s. Wasn't nobody back in the 1600s talking about you black or white. These are new terms.
In fact, let's see how what he just said was true. Etymology of the word black. Let's look up the etymon of the word black. See more. Y'all know I like to dive into it. It don't even tell you the nomenclature. I need to get you pull up a dictionary version for the word black.
Oh yeah, listen, this is where it get interesting. Why I tell people they pulled the trick on us because the definition for black and white, they're the same.
Oh, here we go, right here. Etymology. Look up the etymology of it, and I tried to teach this a while ago, bro. Where we were dealing with definitions change from time to time depending on what's going on in the world. And with definitions, you have what's called the connotative and denotative meaning of definitions. You have what's called an endonym and an exonym with definitions. Okay, when it comes to the etymology, the etymon, the etymology is like a chair. It's the origin of the thing. Over time, they took a chair, they made a bench, they made a recliner, they made a love seat, they made this. What is the first thing they made? Oh, it was a chair. We're talking about the first thing, the origin of the word. The word black comes from Old English. In a dictionary, you'll see O-E, or you'll see O-H-G, O-High German, or O-H-F, O-High French. They're giving you the nomenclature of the language. None of these terms came out of a dark continent. Okay. Proto-Germanic means burnt. Proto-Indo-European means blah, or as in Sauvignon Blanc, or Blanc comes out of this as well. To burn, gleam, shine, flash, to mean to shine. The word black is related to other words to ink. Now, these are all the what's called the connotative meaning of the word. The origins of the word we're concerned about. Let's see. Let's look up the year real quick. This is my point I'm trying to make. What year? It's a lot easier to look up in a dictionary. The black comes from the old word blanc, from the Germanic origin. The earliest known written record of the word black is around 890 CE. An Old English translation, St. Bede, Venerable Historian, Ecclesiastic, the translation reads, whatever the fuck that says, the word black was used as an adjective in 1100s to 1500s. An adjective. We know what an adjective is, right? We're nouns. That's parts of speech. An adjective is a descriptive for a noun. Then you have, forget it. I know a lot of us just fell asleep in fucking 8th, 9th grade English class, so we just kind of forgot about pronouns and conjugative verbs.
But you're making a very valid point, because a lot of people don't know, even in your common dictionary today, the definition of black is what? Void of color. The definition of white is what? Void of color.
Yep. And the etymology of the word black, I'm trying to find it, but Skynet not cooperating. Here it is right here. Here we go. Black. They have it as a noun, Old English, color black, also ink. From noun, use black. Adjective. And I used to teach classes where I had dictionaries. Crom can tell you. And I asked how people, what does ADJ stand for? They didn't know what it stood for. It's not picking. They just didn't know that it means adjective. It is arrested from the 14th century. Now, 14th century, it means the 1300s, okay? As a dark spot in a pupil of an eye, the meaning dark-skinned person, they got dark-skinned person, African in quotes, is from the 1620s, perhaps late as the 13th century, 1200s, and blackamoor. Black in this sense is used as an adjective. More is the noun, blackamoor, from the 1540s. Okay, and I think you guys already know this shit already. People in the chat already know this stuff already. The Latin Niger means black. It's very attested from 2,500 years, possibly descended from the word from pi, root produced night. Why do I make that point? Watch this. Let me show you what white people come from, or YT people. Troglodyte. I'm just spell this right, man. I always fuck this word up all the time.
You ain't about to do what I show them what the actual Africans look like.
Troglodyte nigger. There we go. Troglodyte nigger. There they go. These YT people. You ever heard somebody white say, "I'd just be a monkey's uncle"? They dead ass for real. This is their origins. The Nigerian Cameroon chimpanzee, a pan-troglodyte iliite, is a subspecies of the common chimpanzees that live in the rainforest of Nigeria and Cameroon. The Nigerian Cameroon blah 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 blah. Now watch this. I'm glad I screenshot a lot of shit. Yes, troglodytes were a group of people, not monkeys, people who lived in the caves of ancient times, including in Africa. That's why Dr. Leakey then went to Africa to find their origin, because they couldn't find it in Europe.
Like you said with Darwin's book, the full name was for the white race.
Yep.
They were putting their self on top. That's why they never tell you the whole title of the book. Because once you see the whole title of the book, you like, hold on. This isn't something you're trying to put just in the story.
Ain't got nothing to do with us. When we see that chart, that Darwin chart with the monkey going up to being a white man, you never see that last man being a black man, do you? Nope. This is their origin. Including African troglodyte country, the Red Sea coast. The word troglodyte comes from the Greek word triglo, meaning hole, and dian, meaning dive in. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad talks about how they lived in caves. These were cave dwellers. Okay, y'all don't believe me. The movie Crude's Cave. Let's take it here. A lot of y'all got kids, right? These were the Neanderthals. Right here. Slump foreheads. These people lived in caves. These are the troglodytes. These are the skulls that those white anthropologists were pulling out of the ground and tracing them back. And they fudged the numbers to say millions and millions of years ago. The DNA existed, not the actual hominoid group. All right. Have you ever noticed the Flintstones? Nobody of color was in the Flintstones. Nobody caught that shit at all.
ever.
We was on 12th Dynasty over here and over in Africa, had the dynastic periods bumping already. We was already kings and queens. These folks just crawled out the caves. You ain't gonna see nobody black. Now, of course, the cartoon, the kid version came later and had one little black couple in there, but that's neither here or there. But these are the individuals right here. The cave dwellers, the troglodyte Negroes, Darwin's chart of evolution. That's why you always see them at the end of that chart, not us. This is their origin. This is them tracing themselves back through history. This is them. This is the YT people. Now, why is all that even relevant? Because when we start talking to you guys about the many cases of how they treated our people here in the Americas, when it came to things like the one drop law, the Racial Integrity Act, eugenics, and things of that nature, they had reached their pinnacle on how far they can go back in history. And they knew that they haven't been here very long. And their whole agenda was to dominate and unalive as many melanated people as they could and supplant our civilizations and kingdoms and retell history as if they were on top and they were doing it. And they would tell you about all the empires over here. And Lord have mercy on us Southerners trying to figure out where we come from, because we know we're not African. I make this joke all the time, but I'm being so serious. Growing up, you couldn't call nobody African booty scratch in my neighborhood. We will kick your hind parts.
Yeah, that was considered disrespect.
What? And bro, I never figured out, like, why at the age of 8 and 10 and 6, 7, this animosity behind this term? Because our grandma just told us who we were. Grandma never told us we from Africa. Grandma, like, what? No.
You got to remember why we picked it up. TV and school made us pick it up because Roots was broadcast where? See, I'm old enough to remember. First time Roots was ever shown, it was the children.
Yeah, it was a fight. It was a fight every year too. It was a big fight every year. Speaking of Roots, I've already kind of picked it apart, but even in Roots, they were showing you people from Africa and people from America, and it's in the same on the same plantation. Chicken George had brought the African, which was Kunta Kinte, to the people like, look, y'all never seen no African before. He's a wild man. Master Renner caught him in the woods over there in Guinea. And I said, why is he explaining to the black people what I thought they were? I said, oh shit, they're not African. He has to explain.
Oh, you caught that too, huh? You caught that too, huh?
Like, why is he explaining? And I knew right then, bro, like, oh, the gig is up. Because what Hollywood has to do, according to agreement, they have to tell you the truth. It's just the fact that truth.
It's just how they do it. It's how they do it.
How they do it.
It's how they're gonna put the truth in there, but you have to be able to peep it at and pull it apart.
Absolutely. There's another scene in Roots right here. Check this out.
Mandinka. What food stuff that you talking about? That's African. I ain't no African.
Well, I'm Mandinka. We're proud people.
And I'm American. I was born here. My mammy and my daddy was born here. And my daddy's daddy. I ain't no African.
That's in the movie Roots. I said, wait a minute. Here's another scene. Kids said,
but they'll try to tell you. But they'll try to tell you that those people were confused. They didn't know what they was talking about.
Man, get the fuck out of here. Kids knew she's talking about. Kids went down her whole genealogy without 23andMe. She said, my grandma, my great mama, my daddy from here, and with the neck roll and everything.
But the biggest problem is this. Alex Haley was sued for plagiarism because he took it from the African. He got sued. But the funny thing to me is that I realized he was sued a year after he did it, but they keep showing it every year. And do anybody realize if you go to the bookstore and you get Roots, it has always been found in the fictional novel section.
Wow. Hold on. Are you serious, bro?
Yes. You can go to your local library. You're going to find Roots in the fictional section. It's not real. It has always been known as fiction. When it was released as fiction.
Damn. Okay, you kind of put me up with that one.
He stole it from the African, where the European created the story. Even Kunta Kinte, he stole all that.
Damn.
And if anybody want to look it up, it's all court cases are public knowledge. You could just type in his court case, just like how you spoke the other day. Malcolm X family sued him because that biography isn't real. They didn't know each other like that.
Damn.
Alex Haley been being sued for the longest.
Damn, Alex, I ain't know that shit. So again, damn, kind of fucked me over that, bro. What's the point? My point is to show you that there were two different distinct groups of individuals coming to North America. Two distinct groups. There were Africans coming over here. Let's learn a little bit about some of the first Africans who were brought over here and how many was brought over here. As the brother told you already, like Spain and France had the jump on America by years. I mean, by the British, by years, eons, at least 200 centuries. In 1526, Lucas Vasquez, I can't say the last part, founded the Spanish colony of San Miguel de Galapa, whatever the fuck that is, on the coast of present-day South Carolina or Georgia. They don't know. They know it was the Sea Turtle Islands, marking the first European settlement. I thought it was 1616. No, that's the British. The British. We're trying to tell y'all that Spain been over here. And the only reason they just got to the Carolinas in 1526 because they were so busy with the Caribbean islands of Hispaniola. They were setting up Central and South America for about 89 years after the 1493. Remember, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 1493, they came and conquered all they could see. Columbus made 4 trips over here. So you're going to see people like Lucas Vasquez and Ponce de Leon, who came over with Columbus on the second voyage and to set up St. Augustine in Florida and to claim Florida. And that becomes important that Florida is under Spanish rule because that's where a lot of the so-called Maroon and Cimarron, who you call Seminoles, and the Yamacraw and the Yamasee and the Gold and the Miamians began to set up networks in Spanish territory, Florida, and Georgia became the buffer state against Spanish encroachment coming to the colonies. And if we begin to understand all that information, we can begin to separate the idea of Africans being Indians. Did they join some of the groups? Yes, they did. But my question, and maybe Bones can speak to it, when did the Africans stop being African? Because I know the Africans they brought to the islands like Haiti and Jamaica, they continued to be African. What about the ones who came to North America? Like, when did they stop being African? Meaning the cultural celebration, the remnants, and for all the history that I'm reading, none of them hijacked the ship and tried to go back to Africa. Like, nobody ran towards the coast and just said, let's kill these Spaniards, because it was like 20, 30 deep. The Spanish sailors were, the pirateers, they wasn't that deep on there. And then a lot of these Africans who came over on these ships were stevedores. They worked on the ship. They were not slaves. They worked on the ship as stevedores and sailors. So the way they tell history is so fucking crazy, man. Marking the first European settlement in what will become the continent of the United States, the colony was short-lived, plagued by disease, famine, and a slave revolt. This is your first slave revolt, all my Nat Turner fans out there. This is the first slave revolt, 1526. Location, the Pondee River. The expedition included 500 Spanish sailors, 100 horses, 100 enslaved Africans. That's it. Not 5 million, not 10,000, not 16,000, not 27,545 Africans coming from Africa to North America at no point in time. If we go down a timeline to 1808, when they outlawed the importation of Africans, one no more than about 700,000. if that many. Came
And it gets a little deeper too, because once you look into the Spanish records, because you can't listen to the British at this time, they wasn't even over here. They was over there becoming Britain at this time.
Wow.
What was happening is, because when Spain got to Florida, Spain wasn't the first to Florida. The French was already there. Spain fought the French in St. Augustine. That's how they got St. Augustine.
That's fact. You're right. Damn. Here's something I saw that was pretty interesting. Also, 1526. They quickly found the area unsuitable for settlement and relocated to the south, possibly Sapio Sounds, which is not too far from Jekyll Island in Georgia, where the colony lasted for just 2 months before it was overwhelmed by disease, hunger, slave uprising, and hostile Native Americans. So I asked myself, I said, who were the hostile Native Americans in that part of Georgia in 1526? I'll show you in a second who they were, but population at 600 settlers, only about 150 would leave. And this is not even the worst massacre. The worst massacre was in the Virginia colony when they unalived a lot of those white pilgrims. The enslaved Africans brought by the settlers became the first documented black slaves in what would become the continent of the United States and carry out the first slave rebellion in 1526. Write that down. These were the first on record, according to Spanish colony. Don't misquote what I'm telling you. According to the Spanish colony, these were the first Africans documented. It says documented on the record, for the record, brought to the continent of the United States. So it's like only 100 came over here? Because see, this is 1526. We haven't talked about Sir John Hawkins, who was commissioned by Queen Elizabeth I to bring over those 500 Africans. They didn't come to North America. They came to Central America, or the islands, the islands. So I didn't see any number of significance of Africans coming to North America. I haven't seen it yet.
And you won't see it because the problem is, again, they didn't have to bring them. Because in 1675 to 1676, that's King Philip's War. And if you know the history on that, they shipped them Indians out after the war. All the Indians that the English caught at that time, they sent them as slaves to Barbados, Bermuda, Jamaica, Spain, Triangular, and North Africa. They were taking American Indians as slaves out of America. There were more Indians sent out of America than Africans that was sent here.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. My next point too. Good Lord Almighty. Lucas Vasquez was a wealthy sugar planter in Hispaniola. Hispaniola again was the territory known as the adjoining islands, like the Haiti and Cuba and Puerto Rico, all that kind of stuff was all Hispaniola territory. And the magistrate of the colony Royal Appeals Court in 1521, he dispatched Francisco Gordillo on an expedition to the Bahamas to kidnap people as slaves. What people did he find down there? Let's get to it. Find the island depopulated. Nobody was there. Gordillo and other slaving ships piloted by Pedro sailed northwest to search in previous slaving expedition he found in that direction. On June 24th, 1521, they made landfall in Wyndham Bay on the coast of South Carolina. After some preliminary exploration, they kidnapped 70 Indians. Holy moly. From South Carolina? Now, I thought y'all was bringing Africans from Africa. Why y'all taking these people 15, 20? I'm confused. I thought they were bringing Africans over. So this is 1521.
Even take it deeper, because the Spanish, they had a law. There was no African that came directly at this time from the continent of Africa. This is in Spanish law. No, them people were took back to Spain, had children. They taught them children. Then they brought them over way later. That's why it was only so many.
This is mind blowing. So now from here, let's go to the Indian slave trade. Look at some numbers real quick, and let's bring it all together for y'all, because I know I took the long way around, but I have to. The Indian slave trade in the American Southeast refers to the historical practice where European colonists, primarily from British colonies, so now we're no longer talking about Spain no more, okay? All right, people, don't just say, oh, them Europeans, without calling out which European you're talking about. The Britons, the French, or the Spaniards. Of course, the Dutch and everybody was involved. The Arabs, we're not talking about them, though, okay? Spain got permission under the Doctrine of Discovery of 1493. The Anglican families got together, the House of Castile and the House of Aragon, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. I'm gonna keep saying it till y'all go look that shit up. And under a papal bull from the Pope, Christendom began to conquer American territory. Anybody that wasn't a Christian, they killed him. The reinforcement, the conquistadors came in the 1500s. First couple of ships came over here were just Spanish priests. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria was part of the Spanish Armada. They was just priests trying to convert these people. Oh, y'all don't want to convert? Okay, well, the next ship gonna kill y'all. I try to get y'all straight before they come over here. If you notice, all Spanish territory, let me say South America, Mexico, are heavily indoctrinated on the Catholicism.
Yeah, they're Catholics.
They had no choice. That papal bull that was issued by the Pope to come over here under the Doctrine of Discovery made them Catholics. They had no choice but to be Catholics. The ones who didn't convert, they burned them in front of everybody else. Forced conversion. This is called Christendom. In hoc sec note vince. In this sign we shall conquer. The Indian slave trade in the American Southeast refers to the historical practice where European colonists, primarily from British colonies like Virginia, Carolina, and Georgia, captured enslaved Native Americans living in the southern region, using them as laborers on plantations. Wait a minute.
Because what is plantation? Just a French word for colony.
I ain't seen not one photograph of feather-wearing Indians in no fields doing nothing.
But you've seen a whole bunch of dark-skinned people in them fields.
Come on now. We got to put this together. We got to put two and two together. Okay. Living in southern region, using them as laborers on plantations, and sometimes selling them for further afield to the Caribbean. And it was a huge slave trade between the Caribbeans in Africa, Caribbeans in Britain, Caribbeans in the North America.
Even Caribbeans in North America, yeah. Because all they were doing was they take Indians from the mainland, send them to the islands, and the Indians on the islands, they sent them to the mainlands in Africa.
Yep. And again, bro, that's why I asked for that timeline, because there was nothing. Some I do know. There was nothing for Africans to do at a certain time period in North America. The tobacco don't start at a certain time. Cotton started in 1830. What were they doing when they got here?
And look at the years. Like you said, the 17th and 18th century, that would be the 16 and 1700s. They're enslaving American Indians.
Facts. Facts on facts. Due to the high demand for slave labor, this practice significantly impacted Native American population and disrupted their society throughout the 1600s and the 1700s. What he just said, 17th and 18th century, or the 1600s and 1700s.
But they'll try to tell you it was smallpox. No, they were enslaving.
Native American tribes often raided each other, capturing prisoners of war who were then sold to European colonists. Yes, bigger tribes would do this. The only reason these bigger tribes...
we're going to put a name on them. They were called the Westos.
The Westos?
The Westos, yeah. Everybody write that down. These are a tribe of Indians. They were slave raiders. They would go to other tribes and kidnap other Indians and sell them to the Europeans, to the colonists.
Are you calling them the Westos or just the D?
Oh, you can do Westo Indians.
Gotcha. That is crazy. Oh, yeah, they came up too. God damn.
Mm-hmm. Hey, proof is not a problem. Proof is not a problem.
Now, one thing I want to point out is my research is a lot of these Indian tribes would raid other Indian tribes and turn them in because they didn't want their people to be sent to the islands. They knew that it was a high mortality rate. Once they got sent to the islands, the sugarcane plantation, it was a 0% chance they were going to return back. So a lot of them did partner with the Britons, and they partnered with France, and they partnered with Spain to help detain their own people. Now, they didn't see them as their own people. First of all, let's be fucking clear about this. Now, it's about how the Mexicans would see us. If the Mexicans were in trouble right now in America for deportation, or to tell, hey, you got to go capture some Negroes and we'll leave y'all alone, man, they'll come fuck us up. They're not playing. They would, or vice versa. They could tell us, hey, Negro population of America, if you don't go capture these immigrants and lock them up and give them to us, we're gonna send y'all to Africa, even though we're not from there. So there was motivation behind the reason. It wasn't right. It wasn't right, but there's motivation behind it. Believe that.
You see it now, money and power. Why do brothers and sisters and families turn on each other to this day? Money and power, the promise of something better.
The love of money. The demand for labor. Plantation economists in the South required a large workforce, which was initially filled by enslaved Native Americans. That means what it said. Existing tensions between different Native American tribes were exploited by colonists who facilitated the trade by purchasing captured slaves. And these colonists was giving them guns and rum.
Because again, what people don't realize is these colonists, they watched us and studied us for 200 years. That's why you have a gap from the 1400s to this stuff starting to hit the fan in the 1700s. Because they had to watch and study. When they first came, they wasn't able to pull this off. The Spanish left. Then they came back.
Yeah, they're getting their ass kicked. The captured Native Americans were brought to the Carolina colony to be sold. Now keep that in mind. There's a port in Carolina. There's a port in Carolina. There's a port in Georgia. There's a port in New Orleans. These are ports. These same ports were not just created for human trafficking. They were created for goods. What was called the gross domestic product. At that time, it was a little bit of tobacco coming out of the Carolinas, just a little bit. Rice hadn't quite hit yet in this time frame. Let me take a second to introduce this other brother coming on the platform. This brother is growing to be a crowd favorite for his articulation of information. Good brother, Greg. Peace and love. How you doing, man?
Peace and love. How y'all doing? Shoot, I'm a little late just getting in, actually.
All is well, bro. All is well. You actually right in time, not on time, but right in time. We just came out of dealing with the so-called African diaspora with the out of Africa theory, who's mainly dealing with that, showing them, Melvin Herkovich and other individuals, the father of Pan-Africanism, and dealing with that. And we're trying to separate the narrative or explain Africans versus the Native Americans and who they are, so they're not all lumped together when we say that that these Africans then became Native Americans, or the transatlantic slave trade brought droves and droves of Africans to North America. In some kind of way, they just stopped being African and became Indian.
Yeah.
So where we are now, we're explaining the Native American slave trade. So as I told the good brother Bones, man, I'm just going to read through some stuff. Feel free to stop me and add some value to it, or add a point to it whenever you feel like it, bro. So right now we're talking about the captured Native Americans were brought to Carolina colony to be sold. Were often then resold. So Bones, am I hearing this right? They were sold twice? Like they were like,
yeah.
What's happening right here?
They would go to the Carolinas, right? Because again, the Carolinas was the port, but the port to where? The islands, because people got to remember the sugar cane and all this stuff, they were producing this on the islands first before the mainland. Tobacco and everything was being produced in the islands first. So they were sending the labor back and forth because they had problems with the mainland Indians. When you captured them, we knew how to get away because this is our home. The island Indians, you couldn't put them to work on the island because they knew how to get away. So all they started doing was sending them out to places where they can stop running away.
Damn.
Why do you think you have a colony of Maroons in the island? Because these are mainland Indians that you couldn't leave the island, went up to the mountains because they knew nothing about the islands. If you born and raised on this island, how you gonna keep me on this island? I can leave. I know how to leave. But if I never been here, I have no familiarity of it. I can't go nowhere.
Damn, that's crazy. What did the Southeast Indian trade? What did the Southeast Indian trade? There was regular trade. The coast and interior shells were used for beads. That's not what we're talking about. That's another whole other kind of fucking trade. We're talking about the Indian slave trade. It's about actual trading. Either the native population was being wiped out, and those who were not being killed or captured became the captors. And as the population of natives available for capture dwindled, then the captures began to fall in debt with the colonists who they were trading. This debt frustrated that began the Yamasee War of 1715. Now we in Georgia territory. This whole story, we never leave the southeast region of North America. The colonists, the British colonists, have not went out west yet. This is pre-Trail of Tears. This is pre-Indian Removal Act. And the Indian Removal Act adversely only affected these Indians in the southeast region of America. And what I found to be so crazy was they kicked these Indians out, and 30 years later, they invite Negroes back to redistribute land. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought that was Indians y'all kicked out. So y'all saying those were black people y'all kicked out. Oh, now it makes sense. Okay, so the Yamacraw, the Yamasees, and it's just undeniable evidence that stacks up to show who these people were. And again, I'm trying to make the connection or the disconnect between, are these people African or are these people not African? These people, I mean, these southeastern tribes, the Natchez, the Wampanoag, the Pamunkey. Are these people African or are these people not African? Because I can't find the numbers to justify what's happening. Remember those 100 Africans who were brought over here in 1526 by Spain? I'm gonna go back to some numbers and show you what you guys to take notes of the numbers. Like, just write the numbers down. And this is what's being put out. And I'm gonna show you how many Indians were brought out of America. And if we're intermixing people, this is 200 years of intermixing, literally. Bones might have 200 people from Angola. I might have 40 people from Sierra Leone, and Greg might have 200 Indians from Carolina, and they all look alike. Shit, just, I don't know. Take half from over here, half over there. We don't care. They didn't start documenting yet. Like the document, how you see these old black and white rolls, and 1790 was the first census. This is 1715.
Yeah, at this time, they're not bringing Africans over here.
No, not yet. Not yet. They're still trying to perfect the idea of colonization.
Yeah,
right.
The mass migration of Africans don't get here to the late 1800s, top of the 1900s. And this is all factually documented.
Damn. You fucked them up with that one.
Yeah, I believe the Library of Congress keeps an actual record.
Yes, that's where you will find it there in the National Archives. You are so correct.
There's no numbers that's even remotely close to the amount of numbers they try to make you believe. And in truth, they never actually give you any numbers when they tell us this story. They just give us pictures.
No, the numbers that they give you when you go there, the problem is we have been programmed the majority of our whole life to put a black face on these people. But when you research a lot, when they're telling you, 100,000, but then when you look, they sent 100,000 criminals to Louisiana at the same time that they said they were sending so-called Africans there. Damn. France dumped their criminal population on Louisiana. This is documented. You can see where France sent criminals, prostitutes, the worst of the worst to Louisiana.
Damn.
And where they try
Australia was a prison colony. Remember, Australia was a prison colony.
Damn.
Where they try to trick you with not only just making you believe it was all black people, but then they give you these pictures of black people stacked in a ship and make you believe every ship was like this, when not one ship could be like that. Not one ship could be like that. It would be, at worst, it would be a gas chamber in the undercarriage of that ship if they were packed like that.
You don't even have to go that far. We can just use common sense on what we know. If the ship is that full of people, where's the food? Where's the fresh water? Where's the supplies?
Exactly.
Where's the crew? Where's the crew?
Yeah, there's no way a crew could clean that out and maintain their life for the trip. It's impossible. And your cargo would waste away before they made it to their destination, rendering them pretty much useless to the task that you wanted them to be playing a role in.
Damn.
And this statement might be a little bit too early in this conversation, but if these people are Africans, and these people in 2024 are your Oprahs, your LeBrons, your Michael Jordans, your Jacksons, why there's not one African nation that tried to sue anybody for they lost talent?
Damn.
And why didn't you have any Africans that are, even just by just sheer happenstance of all of the different people who are breeding in Africa, create an athlete of that top tier nature? I mean, it's clearly a difference. And that's not to speak down on anyone who has African descent or anyone who comes from Africa, but it's just not the same genetics. And it's like by sheer chance, you would have some freaks out of there that would be the above the rest.
And what you mean? We got the Kempe Batumbo.
But think about it though. You have these struggling third world nations that are struggling financially. So if everybody's saying this story is so true, why none of these nations can take America or any other nation to the world court for the damages that was done to them?
Nobody tried to come get us.
Ain't nobody's trying to claim you. When you go over there, they're going to let you know you are not them. What people don't know, the return to Africa, that wasn't done over there. That was the tourist minister that did that. If you was really coming back home, why you have to buy a visa? There's one land where I know where we don't need a visa. That's America.
Damn.
That tells you you're home.
Home of record. Yep. Damn. And even with us explaining it the way we explaining it right now, people still don't understand that there were, I don't even know what word should I use? Native, indigenous, Aborigine, like what term do we use to identify the copper colored people who are already here in the Americas?
I keep it simple. There were people here already. See, all the other word salad stuff, they created that to keep us confused.
Word salad. I love that.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's like, man, it doesn't. I've been in I wasn't the person in the conversation, just witnessed conversations about people arguing over those terms. Like, what difference do it make, man? There was people here that were copper tone. Simple.
Even Benjamin Franklin let you know this. What did Benjamin Franklin told you in his letter? The majority of the planet was swarthy. And what does swarthy mean? Dark skin. What does brunette really mean? Not dark hair, dark skin. Tawny, dark skin.
In fact, I don't know if this is going backwards a little bit, but really the out of Africa theory is them trying to explain their story. They don't know where they come from. They're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's what we broke down and showed. Yeah, we showed them that they were putting their self into the story because there was only so many of them. See, the biggest lie they got us to believe that we are the minority here, y'all. If y'all really believe that we've been 13% for hundreds and hundreds of years, they really got you fooled.
Well, one way that I knew that was a crock of BS is when I had seen in the early 1900s when he had invited all those Europeans over here off Ellis Island. I said, why did they do that? Why did they bring so many Europeans over here? And it was to offset the population of free Negroes they saw running around. It scared these YT people so bad. Like, it's too many of them running around here. And that's when you get the negative eugenics movement. That's when you get Niagara Falls, New York. What's it called? The American Birth Control League. That's when you get people like Francis Galton getting involved. Eugene Fisher gets involved. Okay, and Eugene Fisher was the liaison for the new Nazi party that came to exterminate the Juicy people out of Germany. Like, it became a mass extermination. involuntary extermination, it became a situation where they began to anesthetize black women and black men, and forced sterilization happened in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. See, Margaret Sanger came later on the scene. Margaret Sanger had like a pamphlet going on by the time she joined the American Birth Control League. But it was some white boys like Lothrop Stoddard that was serious about eradicating these Negroes.
And now you have to ask yourself, why did they do this? Was it because they hated your look or the color of your skin? No. It was because of the law. The law in America states what? Representation by paying taxes and majority rule. They knew if they never started this, they could never get in charge. Because you have to realize they didn't get in charge until the end of the 1800s. You know it as Reconstruction. What were they reconstructing? Us.
And the government. They reconstructed the government. And I think I showed y'all before where the state of South Carolina had an entire black government. Everybody. Everybody. Let me see if I can find it on my
Listen, they put a hit out on them. Baseball cards was created with these people name and images so they know who to get when they ran them out of office and killed them and took their seats.
Damn.
They are really playing a game of survival. And
why do you think voting is? See, they taught us to hate voting. They taught us to run away from it. You understand? That's the danger. Listen, y'all. This is why they spent so much money on stopping you to vote. This is why they spent so much money to dumb you down so you never want to vote. Because that's how we take power back. Not voting for them. No, taking it even further. Putting your own people in position and doing what our ancestors did in the early and mid 1800s. And we vote ourselves into these seats. But now they got us warring with each other. We don't talk to each other. We're no longer communities. They keep bringing more immigrants over here. They keep watering down the educational system. Remember what they told you. Kill the Indian, save the man. Kill the Indian. The part that made you love your community. The part that made you love your neighbors. The part that made you make sure that every child had a fair chance. That's the Indian. We took care of the land. We took care of each other. They didn't like this. So they had to kill that part of you and make you be a European. And if you look at so-called Black American culture in 2024, we ain't nothing but dark-skinned wannabe Europeans because we want everything they got. We want the big house, the flashy car. That ain't our ways. That's their stuff.
And that's on the high end. On the low end, we hillbillies, essentially. We have hillbilly culture. We have our own swag and spirit that we put to it. But the degradation that comes along with it, the not caring about your community, your people in your community, the state of your community, all of that is hillbilly culture.
And like they said in the chat, the American dream. The American dream was to confuse you, to turn you into an individual. Why it took them so long to break our ancestors down? Because as long as they stayed together as communities, they did not stand a chance. It's once we got, I'm going to get me, do me. I ain't worried about nobody else. That's the downfall.
Dr. Claude Anderson said, he stated that we used to live in neighborhoods and all the neighbors moved away. So we left with a hood. That concept. When I started to read that there were the population of Black families, that means husband, mother, children, between 1865 to about 1971 was way higher than it is now. And Black men made way less than we make right now. They said a Black man with no college degree could support his whole household and had the respect of his wife and respect of his children in his household, right? You didn't have Black women in that time period degrading and talking down on Black men. There's no other culture on social media, podcasts, nowhere that a group of white women are talking negative about white men. There's no podcast that Indian women are doing it. There's no podcast that Asian women are doing it. We're the only people. And Black women, I'm holding y'all accountable. Okay, you don't put my damn Mark Samuels, what his name is, rest in peace, brother. Yeah, Cabin Samuels on in a second now. Black women, y'all got to cut the buffoonery out too. Not all y'all now. But
because most of them don't know it. Just like how most of the melanated men are trying to be Europeans, most of the melanated women are trying to be Europeans, but we don't realize it because this is learned behavior. Think about it. If some of us are old enough to know, when they sent us to school, they made us cut our hair. All of us who had melanated skin, we all had to have the same haircut. The girls had to have their hair in a particular ponytail. They reinvented us, recreated us in their image and what they needed and wanted us to be.
Yeah, it's an artificial culture. Even the disdain we have between our sexes is an artificially created culture, and it was created just so that we could not recover from what was done to us, because they know you can't do it without family, and family is the foundation of community.
And to Solo, you said 100 years ago. I challenge and just say 50, 65 years ago. Not even 100.
Yeah, we don't got to go 100. We can go right before the Great Depression. Because the Great Depression is when they came and they got the last of our people's finances. On what I was mentioning yesterday, everybody know about the Freedmen banks, but if you do your research, you'll find out who bankrupted the Freedmen banks. The U.S. government did. Andrew Jackson did.
Yeah, it's purposeful.
You have to remember, you have two acts right after the Civil War, during the Civil War time. You have acts. You have the Confiscation Acts. The first Confiscation Act and the second Confiscation Act. This is when anybody that was suspected in the South or helping anybody in the South during the war, they took your land, property, and whatever they wanted. They seized it. How do you think Martin Luther King was telling you at the top of the 1900s when they did the Homestead Act and everything, even the first one in the 1800s, what do y'all think they got the land from to give to these new incoming immigrants? They took it from your people.
And hold on, I want to talk about something. You said a lot. I want to touch on everything you just said. The Freedmen's Banks and Savings Trust Company. You guys, please pay attention to this. All the land that was established that you're calling states, or these, I still call them colonies. These 48 colonies were all established under trust. James Oglethorpe established the Georgia colony as the trustee. Anytime there's a trust, there's a trustee and there's a trustor. And they're acting on behalf of the trustor. Okay?
And that's the Indians, but they don't want you to know that you're an Indian so they can stay in charge of it.
They don't even want you to know, they don't even want you talking about your nationality. That's why they give you labels, which is an exonym: Negro, Black, Colored, African American. Nobody on the planet calls himself a crayon. Oh, but white people, white is classified as anybody from North Africa. That's Morocco, Algiers, that area up there.
Yeah, man, you got people that's darker than all three of us on this panel come to this country. Their classification is white
all day long. That's why. Yeah.
And no one classifies themselves only as a continent either. They were like, I'm not African. I'm not Nigerian, just Nigerian. I'm from the Yoruba tribe. You know what I mean?
Also think about it too. Outside of the U.S. Census, them terms don't mean anything. No. They're only applied to the U.S. Census for the allocation of resources.
Come on, brother. Talk to him. The Freedmen's Savings and Trust Company, known as the Freedmen Savings Bank, was a private savings bank chartered trust.
By who?
Write it down.
Who chartered that bank again?
By the U.S. Congress.
One more time for the people in the back.
U.S. Congress on March 3rd, 1865. Write down March 3rd, 1865. This is when Abraham Lincoln gave us the Emancipation Proclamation. But over here on my network, you guys are smart to understand the word emancipate means transfer of property. Proclamation is just a public announcement made by a government official. Lincoln was the president of the Union, not of the Confederacy. So nothing Lincoln said could influence the South. It was just a notion. 1861-63, Lincoln issues the Emancipation Compensation Act, awarding $3,000 to slaveholders to release their slaves in D.C. only. And one black man took advantage of that. He got reparations as well. I'll show you him in a second. This shit is crazy. It's mind blowing when you start researching shit. To collect deposits from the newly emancipated community, the bank opened 37 branches across 17 states and Washington, D.C. within 7 years and collected funds from over 67,000 black folks. You can't get 67 Negroes to give you $1 right now. Hell, it's 73 of y'all on here right now, and my damn Cash App been going for an hour. I haven't got $1 from y'all. I'm fucking with y'all. But 67,000 depositors. At the height of this success, the Freedman Savings Bank assets worth $3.7 million in 1872, which translates to about $80 million in 2021. Of course, with inflation, it's probably like 78 million now, but $80 million. Could you imagine how many home loans we would have received? How many business loans we would receive if we would have went to this bank? And this bank would still been open today with 80 plus million. That's just in dollar. That ain't assets, because banks also have assets, properties, and other things.
There's a trap. There's a trick what U.S. Congress did with this bank. Yes, our money was in there, but in the underwriting, when they created this bank, it couldn't give out home loans. At this time, it couldn't make investments for them to make a profit. Their money was just sitting in there being stagnant. They tricked them.
This is crazy, bro. The sites where the bank's headquarters once stood was later occupied by Treasury Annex, and the annex was renamed Freedman's Building in 2016. So by the time this brother right here, Frederick Douglass, got involved, the bank was already fucked up.
They were broke already.
He didn't want to do shit.
That's why he put his own. See, when people be like, "Oh, he put his own money up," he put his own money up. Yeah, he had to, because Andrew Jackson bankrupted.
He really had
on
to.
Purpose.
It says at the end of the American Civil War, the poor economic conditions of the former enslaved freedmen were aggravated by the economic devastation of the southern states. The newly freed blacks had a few economical resources or capital, and even less exposure to private enterprise. Many soon turned to sharecropping. This is where you see the pictures of the Negroes out in the cotton fields. I told you they're just at work, just working. This is why they had to go back to work. This is why they couldn't do anything but go back to work. They were on their way. We were on our way. On our way. Out in the cotton fields. Had to go back to work. The baby got to go to work. The kids, third grade, you got to drop out. Bring your ass to work. We got to work. This in the southern states that they had to go do this. A lot of those southern landowners, I'll show you in a second.
In fact, by the time, I thought you had stopped for a second.
Ahead, bro.
Like, but by the time they even had cameras that you could move around a little bit with, it wasn't like a stationary thing, or you could take a picture without having to sit there. Slavery had been the thing we call slavery had been over. So it's like they catching these pictures well after the time that slavery was even instituted anymore. So like it was clearly not slaves that they're showing these pictures of.
Yeah, because the story of slavery that they telling you was created at the top of the 1900s. These people are employees, y'all.
In fact, exactly.
They're employees. That's it. Think about it. Slavery never left. If you work a 9 to 5, you are still a slave. If you don't believe me, just read the 13th Amendment. If the 13th Amendment tell you slavery or involuntary servitude is illegal unless convicted of a crime, that's telling you voluntary servitude is still active. Don't you voluntarily get out your bed to go work a 9 to 5 to pay your bills? Come on, man. Do not let them fool you.
Now, it's just debt slavery now.
This is somebody else telling y'all this shit. Y'all watch me pull up General Order Number 3, which is the proclamation that was read in Galveston, Texas in 1866. We went through that whole letter. It ain't that much to read, but I'll show y'all brothers in a second. In that letter, this is what people celebrate Juneteenth, which I think is stupid. I did a lecture called "Fuck Juneteenth" because it's not real. It tells you in General Order Number 3 that the condition is no longer slave and slave master. but it's now employer and employee. We advise the free Negroes to remain in their homes and continue to work for wages. I'll show you the letter. I said, wait a minute. Slave master, freeman. There's three different groups of people they talking to. The condition is no longer, let me pull it up and show y'all real quick. I said, what the hell? This is before the 13th Amendment. This ain't gonna do with no involuntary servitude. This is flat out what it is. General Order Number 3.
According to National Archives,
and the reason you're going to see
Granger issued General Order Number 3.
This is General George Granger. General George Granger created prostitution in Nashville, Tennessee. He legalized prostitution for the troops. Anyway, let's read this. This is the same General Granger who came to Galveston, Texas. Let's read this real quick. This is the actual letter. It's in cursive. Who can read cursive? Nobody. It's just crazy. I didn't know kids couldn't write in cursive anymore. Let's read the letter real quick. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the executive of the United States, they're referring to Lincoln in this part, all slaves are free, period. Now, as I said before, we can stop reading right here and start celebrating Juneteenth if we want to, because that's what Juneteenth is all about. Or we can keep reading the damn letter. This involves an absolute equality for persons' rights and rights of property. They're talking to the slaveholders. Between the former masters and slaves, and the connection herefore existing between them becomes that of employer and hired labor. Don't call him massa. Call him your employer. Don't call them slaves. Call them hired labor.
No, let's take one deeper. What came from out the South? Call them boss.
Boss, yep. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly in their present homes and work for wages. Okay, wait a minute. I saw three people. I saw masters, I saw slaves, and then I saw freedmen. I saw three different groups in here. So the freedmen who were never slaves were told to keep y'all ass in y'all house, keep your mouth closed, and just keep going to work. As for you new Negroes on this plantation, we're not going to call you slaves anymore. We're going to call you hired labor now. Anybody hired? Department of Labor hired? Anybody hired? $15 an hour? I'll take that. Those slave wages. I'll take $15 an hour. You're worth more than that. I don't matter. I'll take it. I need a job. Right? And that's why I made the comment, had there been a EO department or HR department, you would never heard of slavery. Never heard of slavery.
Because there's something that's being formed at this time while they're taking away the term slavery. Because you have the work unions popping up at the same time this is happening.
Well, now, yeah. See how they type in the word slave and they show you people at work. These people at work. They got you thinking that this is the 1700s, this is the 1600s, this is what the colony of Virginia looked like, this is what the colony in Georgia looked. No, man, this is way later. They got on clothes.
This is 1860s, 1870s, 1880s. That's right. Where these things come from.
These people are what do you call them? Tenant farmers. Let me show you how they got back on the land real quick. Indian Removal Act. This is the territory. I told you we're not going to leave the Southeast region. This whole conversation, we've been hanging out in the dirty South because this is, in my opinion, where all the history happens. The Indian Removal Act, 1830, Andrew Jackson. President Andrew Jackson to remove Native Americans from their homelands in the eastern United States and relocated them unsettled lands in the West. The act was signed on May 28, 1830. Let's fast forward 60 years later. Watch this. Field Order Number 15. Special Field Order Number 15, 1865, by the way, was issued by Union General William T. Sherman, 1865, during the American Civil War. The order was redistribution. that means if the word re is involved, that means it came from somewhere initially. Around 400,000 acres to Indians, no, free blacks. Navajo Indians, free blacks. Sioux Indians, no, free blacks. Lakota, no, free blacks. Pueblo Indians, no, free blacks. Then who came off the land in their Indian Removal Act? These same free blacks removed off the land. They came back to Charleston, South Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. They came back on their land. Now, unfortunately, Andrew Jackson was dead at 65. President Andrew Johnson overturned this, and he returned the land back to the white folk. And then that's when you saw the picture of our people out in the cotton fields back at work again. The orders,
and there's another layer to it.
Really, the free slaves transit to freedom and build a better life for themselves. The land was previously worked by former enslaved people and historically been home to cotton, rice, sugar cane plantation. The order was also encouraged freedmen to enlist in the government services. However, President Andrew Johnson revoked the order before the end of the year, restoring ownership of the land to former enslavers. This left African Americans with few options. Take y'all ass back to work, either being pushed off the land again or staying and work under previous enslavers.
And this is where the track come. This is where the trick come in. Remember, right before this, you got the Trail of Tears, and if you're familiar on the history of that, you had Indians that escorted certain Indians over there, and they had to be back in a year to reclaim their property. What the U.S. government did is speeded up the timeline. So when these people came back, people were already living in their homes. Why you think there's no history, no records of these big homes that these Europeans moved into, of them ever building them?
Mm-hmm. Likewise with the courthouses and most of the architecture that you see, or the older architecture that you see downtown, that's built around with the newer stuff. You see all that stonework that's mixed in, the older stonework. They didn't build any of that either. That's why they always say founded rather than build.
And if you think that oh no, that couldn't have happened, then what was Tulsa, Oklahoma? An empty, barren spot where people went, built up a whole city that made them jealous to the point they burnt it down. Damn. Go back, look at the houses in Tulsa. Look at the buildings. Your ancestors built that, just like how we built the other stuff in the country.
Now, what they were talking about, family, is these European squatters would squat on the land, and once those individuals in the native were pushed off the land was declared abandoned territory. And once it was declared abandoned territory, under certain acts and policies, squatters had the right.
Squatters right.
Yep. Now these squatters were not called squatters; they were called carpetbaggers
and homesteaders.
Carpetbaggers is a derogatory term used by Southerners to describe Northerners who moved to the South during Reconstruction in the 1860s and 70s. The term refers to suitcase that people carried. The Southern disliked carpetbaggers because they believed they were taking advantage of the South political economic situation after the Civil War. They were also called scallywags.
Scallywags around Waynesville. Here you
Scallywags, white Southerners acting in support of Reconstruction government after the American Civil War, often gain for private gain. The private gain was those land trusts and land deeds. So scallywags and carpetbaggers are the individuals we're referring to after Reconstruction came out. And
if you're old enough, and when you hear that name scallywag, some of us, if you go back to the little nursery rhyme that they used to say, that ooh, scallywag, they don't got no hair in the back. Who you think they was talking about?
Bald head scallywag.
He ain't got no hair in the back. They were talking about them Europeans, man. Listen, why do you think certain things they don't want you to get your hand on? Because if you listen to it over and over, you'll realize, hold on, this is what really happened. That's why You learn the same thing from first grade to 12th grade. You don't learn nothing new. They just reprogramming you so you don't never look for this information.
Mm-hmm. It was a lost conflict. Is really what that Civil War was. It's not what they painted it out to be, because that's when we lost full control. And after that, you see us, the last vestiges of us trying to hold on to what we had as the system shifted around us.
No, that's facts. I want to slide over to the TikTok real quick to just dive into this real quick. As we said before, we're talking about a total black legislation, and I'm using the word black in the colloquial sense, family. We all know what I'm talking about. Let's use the term they used back then. The Negroes, it's called Negro Rules. It's an actual book you can check out, dealing with the poor white Southerners who didn't have a strong political stronghold at all in the South. The Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, which became the Democratic Party, was the political prowess of which white Southerners would not regain, but gain political control in the South during the Reconstruction era. There's an era prior to Reconstruction called the antebellum period, which I hardly hear anybody talk about in history. The antebellum period was also a quiet period in Southern history where black people were heavily involved in the black politics of the South. Let's take a look at this real quick. Uh-oh, where's my sound at? Hold on.
The prostrate state, South Carolina under Negro government.
And this is not a Google search either. This is the actual book. And let's pause it real quick. It said, I have no positive theory in regards to the future of South Carolina. 15 years ago, when the emancipation seemed distant, I ventured the prediction that the Gulf states would finally have to be surrendered to the blacks. But the abolition of slavery having been suddenly participated, the conditions of the problem had become changed. Yet there were those who believe in such and now inventable faith. Several of the southern states, South Carolina included, in following pages. Oh Lord, hold on. I'm fucking up, y'all. Hold on. Let me fast forward this shit. Right here. To blacks, but the abolition of slavery being suddenly participated, the conditions of the problem had become changed. There are those who believe in such inventable faith, several of the Southern South Carolina included. In the following pages, I have combated the sentiment as regards South Carolina have pointed. Let's get to what he's talking about. This is called the prostrate states. This is dealing with South Carolina, March 1873.
On January 14, 1868, the South Carolina Constitutional Convention met in Charleston with a majority of black delegates.
1868. This is 3 years after supposed slavery. You couldn't read, you couldn't write, you was dumb, you picked cotton, you was stupid, you was slow, you couldn't do nothing. Remember how they taught you in school? 63. Educated people of color in South Carolina, one of the most racist states besides Mississippi, took charge of the legislation.
And I want to just point out how it's just, I don't know if people noted, but it said that it would have to be surrendered to the blacks until the precipitation of slavery or the abolishment of slavery changed that. It's so make sure you pay attention to that.
It did. It definitely did say that. 68, the first legislation with black majorities, image of 63 legislators, members were distributed throughout South Carolina, opponents of radical Reconstruction. Law passed during right here. Law passed during Reconstruction, especially the 14th, 15th Amendment, significantly expanded the scope of American citizenship and extended political rights to millions of Black Americans. In 1868, South Carolina had the first legislation with Black majority. This image of 63 legislators were distributed. It's the same part we just read. So I guess the point of me showing this is a lot of this stuff just didn't make sense to me. Like we were brought from Africa, we was beaten, we was treated wrong, and we couldn't read or write. Anti-literacy laws, and then I come across shit like this, 1875. How are we in legislation if we couldn't read or
Running the government, we would amass the Masons that they came to. How you? If anybody knows anything about masonry, you're not learning how to do masonry and the math involved with masonry without knowing how to read or write.
Come on now.
Not possible.
Come on now. This next question is to the brother Bones. Are you familiar with the Washita tribe out of Louisiana? Are you familiar with them? You know anything about that group?
I heard about them. I don't know too much history about them.
Okay, so this is where some research that I got into. I had the privilege of doing an interview with one of the sisters who was a part of the delegation in the 70s. They got their recognition by the United Nations in 1993 or 94 as the oldest indigenous civilization in North America, Poverty Point, Louisiana. Blew my fucking mind. So I'm like, I wonder why the Indian powers to be, us people who are talking about the Native American Indian transgression of Negroes, why ain't nobody on TikTok talking about the oldest recognized civilization of Black people in North America, recognized by the United Nations? UN number 21561, I think, or something like that. I'll show it in a second. But they were known as the Oshitush. The French on accent called them Wichita. And this is Poverty Point, Louisiana, for anybody want to go do your research on this. And I heard Dr. York mention this years ago on one of his lives, just never paid attention to it. And I started hearing about the Wichita people. Oh, Wichita. And I said, are these real people? Because when you first go look them up on Google, they're going to show you that they're going to recognize that, yeah, they'll say they're a Black sovereign group who are affiliated with the Moorish Science Temple and blah, 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 blah. Then it immediately goes to that there are cohabitants of the Kohiri Nation or the Caddo Nation, fairly recognized as the Oshitush. I said, holy shit. And all these parades that they have down in Louisiana with people walking around with them Indian suits on, I haven't heard anybody talk about these people. That's Empress Vertices, the one who got recognized by the United Nations as the oldest civilization, Black civilization, Indian civilization, indigenous civilization in Poverty Point, Louisiana. Nobody has challenged this shit. And I'm calling out anybody. I'm not saying challenge it as to debunk it, but like challenging as in to go do your research. Yep.
No, all they're gonna do is they're not gonna do the full research, and what most people do, they're gonna bring up the chapter of her life when she started messing with a bunch of people that got her jammed up with the government. But what people don't know, their indigenous identity and everything, they gained that and had that way before they started getting into that foolish paperwork that got them jammed up.
Yep. Now, this is another interesting group right here that I came across. And I've never seen this photo before. I just doing some research. Nobody in this group looks like the people of the plains. They don't look Navajo. I researching that moccasins were only worn by southeastern Indians, not by plain Indians. Moccasins are too hot to wear out there.
Because the majority of that history was created in the Indian boarding schools, to where they took Indian children away from their families, taught them their version of an Indian, and sent it back out. Like half of that West Indian stuff, that's not real. That's from Wild Bill and circuses and stuff, and they recreated an image to give you something.
Mm.
Yeah, and to
Now,
make it look uncivilized, so that even when you started going through the layers, you even if you could attach black to it, you would attach
You wouldn't
uncivilized
want to.
behavior. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
now, I have done several posts dealing with those Indian parochial schools, those Indian agricultural schools or institutions. This is the oldest one.
Carlisle School, correct.
This is the oldest one.
Industrial school.
After this, you see the mule down there at the bottom. See the mule, 1879. After this school, you didn't have what's known as Hampton Indian Institute. Hampton Indian Institute. And I was looking through those pictures, and I see, I would presumably say this is not a plain Indian due to the fact those are turkey feathers.
Exactly.
There's no turkeys. There's no turkeys out west, as far as I know.
They are, but they're not in the plane.
I'm looking at the individuals in the classroom. Now, the Plains Indians, they made them cut their hair. This is part of what is called a simulation. Kill the Indian, save the man. But what was interesting was these so-called Negro-looking people in the classroom. The Society of American Indians, 1911 to 23, was the first national American Indian rights organization ran by American Indians. That's in 1911. This is 1879. When it was illegal for Negroes to read and write, by the way, but yet here they are in Hampton University, which is HBCU. I said, why?
You have to remember what they were saying. See, that's the trick in it. They made it illegal for you to read and write because what they did, they took certain Indians, took them in these schools and sent them back to teach you the European BS. This is what they were doing. Because see, when you do the further history, you'll come to find out that a lot of these men and women that leave from these schools, these are your dark-skinned politicians.
Yeah.
This
the
is the
bourgeois family line. Exactly. The
I got
boule
you.
family line.
This is the forming of your black boule. Especially when you go back and you get these children names and you follow their history and their careers, you'd be like, hold on, man. These are Indians.
Exactly what I said. When I started following the breadcrumbs and figured out, like, oh, HBCUs a lot. Oh,
because all HBCUs were Indian schools originally. They didn't become HBCUs until like the 60s, man.
Yeah, and that's when exactly that, like Spelman, Morehouse, all that was.
Let's do a quick point of correction. Okay. I want you guys to write this down. Okay. Let's write down it's called the Morrill Act. Morrill Act.
Yes.
The Morrill Act 1862 was a land grant. These are your land grant college institution like Tuskegee, FAMU, Texas A&M. So, but those were later. 1862, these were the Indian grant colleges. HBCUs didn't get their money until 1890. 1890 is when they started giving HBCUs their money, going to the 1900s. So again, see, 1890, the second Morrill Act was passed to address discrimination against black students in the former Confederate states. The second Morrill Act required states to establish separate land grant institutions for black students, and demonstration admissions would be strictly by race. What was crazy was, I'm about to show y'all these land grant colleges in 62 that had black students through the whole class. I said, so who were they? They were Indians.
At an Indian
Those
school.
goddamn
Indian school. Because think about it. The term black, our people didn't use the term black to identify us until the 60s, y'all. We wasn't identifying as black at this time.
Come on now.
Yeah, the most of them.
You couldn't even claim it on the U.S. Census at this time. You couldn't even claim black on the U.S. Census.
Once they changed the schools, it was the elite. Like Spelman, for instance, was Rothschild's wife.
Yes.
Like they named them and tagged them with all of the stuff that they wanted to teach you that would keep you ignorant.
Because what did they tell you? They built these schools to kill the Indian and save the man. This is their plan being shown right in front of you. They told you what they was going to do, and they did it. Because what they told you, oh, don't read that. Stay away from politics, government. Oh, no, what you in the book for? And then they turn around and told you if you wanted to keep information from us, put it in a book.
Here's something else I found interesting. This is called the Howard Orphan and Industry School. Y'all know who General Howard is, right? He's going to give you Howard University later. So Howard Orphan and Industrial School, formerly known as the Brooklyn Howard Colored Orphan Asylum, was an orphanage for Black children in New York City. 1868. The orphanage was supported by Black churches and had strong ties to Weeksville. Y'all know who Mr. Weeksville is, right? It's the first Black community way before Wall Street, Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I don't know why people are stuck on Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma was just 3 blocks. It was just a neighborhood. William T. Montgomery founded Mound Bayou, which was a whole city. So no difference between neighborhoods and cities and foundations of so-called Black people. This is Brooklyn today, founded by James Weeks, who bought the land from another Black man in the mid 1800s. And what I'm finding, I'm making this point because I thought in that time frame I found out there were 2 groups of Black people. That's all I'm leaving it at that. There were 2 groups. There were enslaved, uneducated Negroes in that time frame. Unfortunately, it was. But there was another society of Negroes who knew better, who were never enslaved. They don't come from slavery. They were educated. They could read, write. They was politicking with white people and everything. In fact, during the height of discrimination in the late 1800s, people like what's his name? Forgot the fucking guy from Louisiana. Black people was running the states. We were running the territories without people enslaved.
Some of those families had slaves themselves.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts on facts. I want to point this out real quick. What I found to be interesting. Oh, go ahead, drop back down. What I found to be interesting was the children, and please keep in mind, y'all, the time frame. This was during anti-literacy laws against Negroes. Not these Negroes. These Negroes were Indians. The other set of Negroes, anti-literacy laws. Watch what happens. Let's start here. The home for freed children and others. So we're not talking about slave Negroes. The Home for Freed Children and Others was founded in 1866, the same year you're going to get that shit in Galveston, Texas, 1 year after the Emancipation Proclamation, by Black Presbyterian minister Henry M. Wilson, Black widow Sarah A. Tillman, and a white general Oliver Otis Howard. It was originally used by freed women. So get slavery out your mind. I know because of psychoneurosis, sometimes it's hard to erode it from our brains, but I'm doing my best to tell y'all these were not slaves. It originally was used by free women new to the northern United States at the place for their children while they searched for work. Their children were used as indentured servants. 1866, slavery supposedly had ended. Their children were used as indentured servants to white and Black families. You see this right here? These little Black kids working for Black families too. What Black families had money to own other? Well, they didn't own them. They kind of on a convict leasing. They went to rent a center. Let me get 2 10-year-olds and 1 15-year-old for about 4 hours, clean my house, and they were able to do that. They were leasing them out for a small payment, going to the children in return. While it had some financial support from white patrons, namely General Howard, for whom it was named, the orphanage was staffed and managed primarily by African Americans. Wilson was a member of the African Civilization Society, which supported organizations in schools. By 1868, the institution's finances were in disarray, just like the Freedmen's Bank. What happened to these kids' money? They don't took the kids' piggy bank due to Wilson's mismanagement. 88, it was renamed Howard Colored Orphan Asylum. Watch how I take you from Howard University to Hampton University. Watch how I take you from Howard University, HBCU, to Hampton University, HBCU. Watch how I do this. Give me 4 minutes. I'm going to demonstrate for you. Okay, Bones, I got you, bro. It's all good. In 88, it was renamed the Howard Kohler Orphan Asylum and moved back to Brooklyn with Reverend William Francis Johnson, a blind preacher who was active in the struggle for equal rights. As a superintendent under Johnson's leadership, the institution frequently obtained donations from Black churches, Black speakers, more coverage in the news, creating a close ties to the Black community. 1890, the institution moved away from a district service system to train students in industrial education to prepare them for practical world of labor, business, and agriculture, but which would limit formal students. This led to Hampton Institute recommending 4/5 of the students should be engaged in institutional training, and Booker T. Washington was tapped to secure funding from leading philanthropists. I just took y'all ass from Howard University to Hampton University, and y'all don't even realize it. This is the Hampton Institute. This is Hampton University. Howard comes up with Howard University from this a little bit later, all dealing with Black students. These are the foundation roots of HBCUs. Not all of them, but at least Howard and Hampton University right here. If I show you the pictures from these Indian institution schools, you can be like, what the hell? Those are not those are, they look like my little nephew. They look like my little cousin. Why them kids? Greg, you want to add anything to this, bro?
Honestly, so there was many. I wish I had the names, but there was many orphanages like this that was spread out, and they essentially did the same thing. They just didn't all turn into HBCUs, but they did create the Boule class of people who came out and re-educated or started to educate, whether it be the Indians that they were re-educating or the slaves that they were re-educating. They re-educated people to believe as we believe now, and to basically having a full revisionist history so that we didn't even understand that we ran everything prior to the 1850s, 1830s, really, more so 1830s, that we ran everything and we were losing it. And they're still to this day the people who are the middleman between us and them.
Damn. So listen, fam, we're gonna get ready to get up out of here, man. But I want to definitely pass the floor over to good brother Greg and good brother Bones for any type of closing remarks or any takeaways that the family should look into or just be aware of, because this is a movement, man. Like, we're gonna be on here with this shit over and over until you guys understand what time it is. So please, any kind of closing remarks, man, feel free to share.
Man, like I told the panel before, or the comment section before, Bones was the one who put me on to starting the businesses the correct way. Even as far as how your taxes are filed is different when you do it correctly. He also is somebody you want to get in touch with if you want to use Section 6 to your benefit, or learn how to use Section 8 to actually purchase homes. And you want to get with a couple of people. Keep Chief Callie, who was on here before. He can get you connected with people who can get you started for your genealogy, because what we all are ultimately going towards is getting our land back. And you have any type of land titles attached to your family's name, you have a claim out there. And it's time for us to go get our stuff back.
Maybe next time we can get Callie up on here and definitely go over that, because that's shit. I want to know that. Brother Bones, if you get the opportunity, you want to chime in and give any closing remarks?
Yeah, basically, like you said, this stuff we're going to keep doing and keep exposing as much information as possible, because it's about time for us to know the real truth. And all of us can agree, the way life is and how we've seen it, we know there's something wrong. But we have a choice. We can sit down and keep complaining about it and nothing never changes, or we can be men and women put our differences aside and find out what do we got in common and work together to rebuild our communities. If they took time out to take it away from us, let's be willing to put the time in to get it back.
Facts. That's what it is, man. Well said. So, family, listen, I want to tell you guys, appreciate y'all again, man, for tapping in. I know it's been a double header. Me and the good brother Crom went on a little bit early. You guys rocked out with us a little bit earlier, so it's almost been like an all-day thing. But I definitely want to say I appreciate y'all, man, for staying tapped in, staying tuned in. As always, the Cash App is closed across the bottom. You don't have to give, but it will help, you know. And the whole point of this whole live was to kind of show y'all, man, we didn't even get to the damn mounds. Like the back of a dollar bill, this is a mound. This is a truncated pyramid. I wanted to show y'all that the empire, the two seals. We'll deal with it later. We'll come back later and deal with these flat top pyramids in North America.
Oh, you're going deep now.
Oh, bro. Yeah, we deal with the double seal. I know the good brother Greg mentioned earlier about Masons, whatever. These people know who I am. I'm high up in the Masonic order. So signs and symbols are for the conscious mind, is what we always say in the Moore Science Temple. Signs and symbols are for the conscious mind. But you guys do me a favor, okay? I'm really trying to reach these 4,000 followers to get to my 10,000 followers. I'm well on my way. I'm at 3,923 followers over on TikTok. So if you are on TikTok, go find me right now. It's the Minister in Farming. There are a couple of imposters over there called Minister in Farming too, but I'm the Minister in Farming. You'll know it's me by my black logo marker up there. Tap in with me on TikTok because I got a lot of material over here that I really dropped when it comes to the Native American diaspora. This is the picture right here I was trying to find earlier of these Indian schools. I'm doing air quotes. Let me show you this right quick. Blew my fucking mind. Pleasant Plain Indian School. Damn, 1913. Go back to that. Shoot, I'm messing up. Blew my damn mind. I think it's right here. Nah, these are the other Indians. These are all the sisters from Florida. These are the Seminole. Why I keep doing that? These are the Cimarron sisters. I said, look at these hairstyles. I'm like, who mean ass auntie is that? Now, that device around her neck is very similar to, I forgot the tribe in Africa. They do the same thing in Africa with the brass bangles around their neck. Seminole, squaw, a wide nose, thick lips. It's like my cousin, actually. I swear to God.
Oh, and just to add on, when you talk about the tribe in Africa that looks the same, because that same tribe speak the Seminole language. Some of them were Seminoles that were sent to Africa during slavery.
Man.
They speak the Vi language. They speak Vi. Vi comes from America. That's what you would call the Cimarron language.
Can't make this shit up, bro. Cannot make this shit up. You cannot make this up. So yeah, definitely come over to that TikTok, man, and give your boy a follow. I definitely want to find Parker Davis, Robbie, who's the last Indian chief. Why they keep doing that, man? That's crazy. Like they want me to be great right now. Talk about this Seminole Scouts. This was pretty cool right here. If you guys know about the Seminole Scouts, they never lost a man. Chief John Horse. They never lost a man. Like the whole time they were fighting, and then many of them went down into Mexico too. So a lot of these Native American so-called Black Indian tribes are infused into Mexico during the Spanish-American War. Spanish-American War got nothing to do with Mexicans. That's Spain in America fighting. I say Spanish-American War. But a lot of these Black Indian tribes were dispatched out there to help out, and they did pretty damn good. They never lost a man while they was fighting, and they were put out there to fight the Plain Indians, and they annihilated the Plain Indians.
And like I said, known as your Buffalo Soldiers.
Yes. This is factory. So yeah, come check out the page, man. Over on TikTok. Give me a follow. As you can see, it's so much fucking information over here, bro.
Yeah.
This is the one of the interview I had did with the queen from Louisiana, Poverty Point, who put me on. See how I'm showing the head wraps. This is out of Africa, though. The other one was the emblem of America. This is the emblem of Africa right here. But what I'm showing in this demonstration is the head wraps. Boop. Boop. Uh-oh. So that's kind of all I do over there, man, is just try to connect the dots for y'all. Feel free to tap in. Big shouts out to my man Bones, my man Greg. Y'all know y'all welcome anytime, every time. I got y'all phone number now, man. So we locked in, bro. I'll give you guys a heads up next time when I go live.
No problem.
No doubt. Appreciate it.
And there's ever a topic y'all want to discuss, let me know. I'll do the moderation and pull up the shit. If you guys got PowerPoints, anything you guys want to share. We're trying to get this shit jumping like Jordan over here, man.
No doubt, bro. Appreciate you. I definitely will.
For sure. Appreciate y'all, man. So listen, y'all. Appreciate y'all for rocking out, man. You guys did well tonight. You guys hung in there. We didn't really reach the 100 mark like I always want to reach the 100 mark. Hey, Bones and Greg, hold tight in the green room for a second. Let me log out of here. But be sure to check out the hoodies on the website. Again, hit me on email. I'll send over the link. And really, just go and check it out. That's all I'm asking. Just go give it a look. I have several different brands, several different looks over there. Go give it a look. Let me know what you think about it. If you want to order something, feel free to order something. Got some for the ladies in the building too. Look out for the sisters. I think this is dope right here. It says impossible. Think clearly. Kind of a mind state of clearing your mind, whatever the case is. I got phone cases over there too, necklaces and all kind of stuff. So if you want to support me, shoot me an email. I'll send you a link. Even if you just share the link, this is the only thing I ask is just share it. And thank y'all for watching, man. Thank y'all for tapping in. Brought to you by Crumb TV. This is your boy, Minister Information, man. Thank y'all for tapping in again. Until next time, peace and love.